Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Passions Podcast, the podcast where we talk about passions. I am your regular today with Maria. Are you What are you doing?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was reading this week's copy of the Harmony Herald.
I love
It's
it.
so exciting. You have no idea what happened this week. We need to talk about it.
We have so much to talk about. I bet the Harmony Herald doesn't even have half of the stories we have this week, actually.
Oh, oh my God. It's
If the
pretty
report.
scandalous, though.
If the reporters in that town, if the reporters in Harmony are as good at their jobs as the police, they didn't get half the stories this week, right?
Though they always get the juicy ones, though.
Yes. So, welcome back, Maria. We are very excited to have you back.
Yay.
We watched episode 666 through. Every time
Oh,
I saw it this week, I was just like, ooh, 666. Episode
but it's
666
fitting.
through 70 this week. And it was a good week. I think last week was a little meh, but this week was a fun week. And you cannot this week you cannot be mad at me about there not being any Gwen because there's also no Teresa.
Fair, fair. So you know what? I brought it. And guess what? I have a shirt from your
I
merch shop.
Thank you. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. It looks so good. You know,
Oh, and that's not the only thing. I also have the mug.
yo,
And
look
yes,
look what
you
she did
know,
to Teresa on the mug, y'all. She made her if you're listening and not watching, she drew horns and a beard on Teresa on her mug. And I honestly, while I don't agree, I think that's hilarious. I think that's so
Teresa
funny.
did it to Glenn on the very first episode of Passions. Turnabout is fair play.
Teresa did it first. So now we're
Yeah,
copying Teresa? What?
yeah, yeah. I'm petty.
She's your role model now, Teresa? No, I'm
Yeah.
joking. All right, so we're gonna
Anyway,
get into the episode, but before we do, I want to give a shout out to all the patrons over on Patreon. Thank you to Muna Shea, Lisa, Sid, Sarana, Randall, Hannah, Camelia, Samantha, Jeanette, Eric, Fantasia, Sean S, Larissa, Maria, George Lopez Fitzgerald, Lisa, Jessica Jean, Laura, Karen, Uche, Justin, Paige, Casey, Garage, Tom Bergeron, Shawnette, Pablo, Steven, Daisy, and Shane, our newest member. I think Daisy and Shane are our newest members from the last episode. So since
nice.
since the last time we recorded. So thank you all for being patrons. We've been having a good time over on the Discord. We've got a couple of watch parties coming up at the end of the month, which I believe, May 22nd and May 29th. So make sure you join the Patreon so that you can join us on Zoom talking about all of the crazy things that are going on in Harmony. And I want to have another game night. I felt like game night was a lot of fun.
That was so much fun. It was absolutely amazing, and also made me realize that I am not as smart at this game as I was. There were so many details that I didn't pick up
Wait, which one?
on. The Wheel of Fortune one. There was a
Oh,
lot that was stumping us.
yeah, the Wheel of Fortune. It was fun though. I found the craziest, the most interactive PowerPoint you've ever seen in your life. And we played Wheel of Fortune. So
Yeah.
come join us, join the Patreon, and join us for some fun times. And with that, on with the show. So this week we're gonna start with our fated couples, but there's only one to talk about, and it's Chad and Whitney. And I was
Mhm.
so glad they got so much airtime this week
Yeah.
because it's been years since they got any real um airtime, any story time. We've been at least a year of just the back and forth of Whitney saying she can't get with Chad because she made that promise to God and her sister, and Chad trying to get
Yeah.
with her. So I'm glad we had at least some developments this week. I'm not happy about the developments, but I'm happy that we're getting doing something.
No. And I still feel so bad for Simone. Chad decided to move on. No one told Simone.
She didn't even know. And she's in here defending Chad. I feel like if she knew that he was making out with Kelly or whatever her name was, like 45 minutes before, she wouldn't be so fervent in her
Yeah.
defense of Chad.
But she saw Chad with Kelly, and she's like, Oh, that's just Kelly. Like playing it off like nothing. It's like the woman was making out with him.
Yeah, I don't think she saw him kissing her. I think what she saw was like Kelly like flirting and coming on to him. But so anyway, let's talk about what's going on. Let's talk about what's going on. Remember, the kids are all at this Valentine's Day party at the youth center,
Mhm.
and Whitney has been drugged by Ivy's dealer. Ivy has sent a drug dealer to drug a teenage girl, and this slime ball went through with that, agreed to
It
it, and did it.
like it was gross.
There's no amount of money you could pay me to do that.
No.
I'm honest. And I'm a money hungry bitch. There's no amount of money. There's no amount of money you could pay me to like drug somebody's child. That's crazy. So,
No.
Whitney is high as hell, y'all, and it's on the one hand it's like hard to watch, and then because I know that it's because she's like on drugs, but on the other hand it was all, some of it was so silly, like the things that they were like, oh my god, clutching their pearls about. It's like she's singing a song. Relax, everybody.
But she's singing a song on somebody's lap.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, you
Yeah.
got me. So
We obviously know that when Whitney gets high or possibly drunk, she gets horny.
yeah,
That's
oh
her
yeah.
thing.
Well, I was thinking, you know what I think? I think the drug, because the more we watched Whitney kind of spiral, I think the drug that we are meant to believe was put in her drink was like ecstasy or Molly, because that's the drug. That's the only drug I can think of that makes you like so. First of all, so like up, like it's an upper, and it makes you more like susceptible to like, oh, I want to love you, I'm in love, everything's, like roses and beautiful, and yeah, it does make you like horny.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, so I've been told.
Of course. Of
Not
course.
that I know. So anyway,
This podcast does not condone drug use
I
or
do.
abuse of alcohol.
Yeah, I do not condone drug abuse, or alcohol abuse at all, but you do you. Anyway,
Hey,
going on.
it's
So Whitney's high as hell. And she's putting on her little performance. Honestly, it was, to me, it was like cute. It again, yes, she did sit down on that guy's lap, but like overall, it was like she's singing a song, she's being
mhm.
seductive. It felt like, how I act at karaoke.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Simone is very concerned, which is honestly is understandable because Whitney is so uptight. So it is concerning to see her let loose in this way. And Simone
Mhm.
like freaking out. She calls her parents again. They're on their way. She then calls Chad, who for some reason has left the job that he's supposed to be at. He's working at this dance. He's the DJ. And he's at the
Yeah.
book cafe for
I
some
didn't even
reason.
realize that. He
Yeah,
should still be there.
I don't know why he was at the book cafe, but he was at the book cafe, and Simone called him and was like, "You have to hurry back. You have to come right back here. Whitney's acting really crazy, and I'm really worried." So Chad comes back to the dance, sees what's going on, and he also is like, "Yeah, something's definitely wrong with Whitney." Everybody says that, like Miguel, Reese, Jessica, every single person that knows Whitney says something's definitely wrong with Whitney. Yeah. So
Mhm.
you would think that when her parents showed up that they would have a similar reaction. They were a little bit, it was so maddening to me the way once TC showed up, everything became Chad's fault. And it was like, we're not even going to question Whitney's part in it. Not saying that Whitney did anything, but she is the one who's clearly inebriated. You're not going to
Yeah.
question her about that.
Yeah.
So let's go on.
Oh, and I do want to point out, in case people were wondering, that actually wasn't Brooke Kerr's singing voice. It was actually someone by the name of Julia Fox. Who?
Julia Foxworth sings is Whitney's singing voice. Thank you for that
Yeah.
tidbit of information, because I
Yeah.
did know that they dubbed it, but I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know who sings for her. It's a nice
I,
voice, whoever it is.
yeah. I looked it up, and also just so you know, Tracy Ross does do the singing when Eve sings.
I didn't know that. She has a nice voice. She has a very
She
nice
does.
voice.
She
Yeah.
does.
So yeah, Whitney's singing, or Julia is singing through Whitney.
Mhm.
And Chad shows up. He notices that something's wrong with Whitney. Then Kelly, oh, I can't stand this girl. I hope we're done with her for now, like forever actually. Kelly comes up to him and notices him like looking at Whitney, and she tries to keep him from trying to help Whitney because he's like, I need to help her. I need to, because I don't think I was clear enough. Whitney is like singing a song, but she's all like all over these different guys. Like there's like
Yeah.
a group, a gaggle of guys around her, and that it did read as a little dangerous, right?
Yeah.
So Dad wants to kind of pull her away. Kelly tells him like, no, leave her alone. She's fine. Um, but he just stops the music so that she can't sing anymore. Or I mean, she can though. But he stops her music, so it kind of interrupts her performance.
Mhm.
And then Whitney starts just like making out with one of those guys. So yeah, now it's like, yeah, something is really wrong. Something's going bad. So Simone calls her parents again, and the call gets broken up. This is important. Simone's
Mhm.
trying to explain to her dad, um, TC. Ugh, I'm sick of him. I'm so annoyed with him this week. She's
Oh, I know.
she's trying to explain to TC what's going on, and she mentions Chad, but the sound is like breaking. So he thinks that Chad has something to do with what's wrong with Whitney, that Chad did something to Whitney. So he already has that in his head when he gets to the dance, right? Um, it's important that we talk about the drug dealer and all this. Mitch, Marty, I think it's Marty.
Yeah, I think it's Marty.
I call him drug dealer in my
That's what I
notes.
was considering him.
What is
But
that?
it was weird because he started getting a conscience. Like he actually was feeling bad for what he was doing
Right.
and calling Ivy out saying you're cold hearted.
You know what? Here's the thing. If this drug dealer is telling you, yo, this is dirty, you're cold, Mrs. Crane, maybe you should do some evaluation on your plan. Right? Like,
Mrs. C.
man, he doesn't exactly have the moral high ground, right?
Mhm.
And if
But
he
even for him, that's one step too far.
and he was willing to do the drugging, but it was like, ugh, I don't like what has happened, what's transpiring here, right? Yeah, so the drug dealer calls Ivy. He says he's concerned about Whitney's behavior. He says, I really hope she comes down before she gets herself into too much trouble because he is seeing her being surrounded by these guys, and then she's like sucking face with every man she sees. And Ivy says to him, as long as she's acting like a tramp, that's all I care about.
Mm,
What?
mm,
Ivy, and I don't know if
mm.
there's any hope for me and Ivy at this point. I did not remember that this happened.
Yeah.
And this is one of those things that I think is going to really stick with me. Just like Eve hitting Orville with her car or burning down his apartment. It's one of those things that just like, oh no, girl, you can do all the good things you want to do, but I remember what you did, and it was
Exactly.
horrible.
Exactly. You start to not have a lot of pity if she's willing to go that low. I mean, she brought back David's real son, and now she's drugging Eve's daughter just to continue to cover for her lie.
Hmm.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, she's dragging other people's kids into her bullshit, and it's
Yeah,
horrible. Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, she says, as long as she's acting like a tramp, I do not care what happens. It's like evil. So Whitney sees Chad, notices Chad in the crowd, and she starts to get like sentimental and like has like a flashback of the two of them when they were together for briefly for that moment they were together.
Mhm.
And she sings him a song. I wish I had written the lyrics or anything, but
I
I didn't.
didn't.
Uh,
Well,
she she sings a very nondescript song, and then she says, "You know what? I'm gonna play a song that says what I truly feel about love." And at this point, the sound cut out on the YouTube video, so I dug into my own personal archive of episodes. It had some sound there, it had a song there, and the
mm,
song that played was something about shattered glass. And again, a nondescript song. Like if you are watching on YouTube and you're like, oh man, there's no sound here, there's no music, you're missing nothing. It's a song about shattered glass, okay? So, in case you
exactly.
didn't know.
Yeah.
um were you watching on YouTube?
Yes. So I
And
don't
yeah,
catch it. There
yeah,
was also a point where like she has monologue and you can't hear anything of what she said.
I
And
I have what she said. I
oh,
do have
good.
what she
Thank
said.
you.
I don't remember where it came up, but I do have what she said because again, I in my episodes that I have, it does have that sound there.
Okay.
Okay, so she plays this song about shattered glass, and then she starts to dance really sexily, and yeah, Chad tries to get Whitney to leave so he can take her home. He's like, I need to take you home. Something's wrong. I don't know what happened, but you shouldn't be here. And she's like, no, I don't
Should
want
be
to dance.
able Chad should be able to recognize the signs since he's supposed to be more street smart.
He's supposed to be from the streets, but he's not like like he grew up. They try to make us think that Chad is like this street kid who was like in gangs or something like that, but he grew up in a foster system, right? Like he grew up with foster parents and like in and out of the system. And so yeah, I don't know if Chad would necessarily know the signs of somebody being drugged, you know? Cuz he is still young
Mm-hmm.
and
He has a lot of experience of just like non-traditional type environment. I'm
yeah,
sure there's foster system or him being on the streets just from being wasn't he originally in LA and he came to Harmony?
he was in LA, but that's like where his foster parents were. Like when whoever uh the people who gave him to these people, like he was given to some people by spoil it but for anybody, but he was given away to these people.
Yeah.
And yeah, they took him to LA and
Hmm.
that's just like where he grew up. So I mean, it's possible that he encountered a good amount of drug use and stuff, but it's also possible that he doesn't recognize it.
True.
'Cause like I said, he is still young, and he
Hmm.
was kind of in and out of the system and in orphanages and things like that. So it's possible he didn't see it. So
Maybe. Maybe.
he definitely knows something's wrong.
But she's it was just amazing how everyone's like, I don't know what's wrong with her. It's like even if you're not going to the extreme of she's on drugs, she at least acts drunk. And you can't tell me you've never met a drunk person to know like, oh, she's drinking and how did alcohol get to the youth center? Because I'm sure this is an alcohol free event.
Yeah, I think that is the part that keeps people from saying like she's drunk because there isn't any alcohol around and nobody who knows Whitney knows her to be a drinker, right? She doesn't ever drink. So I think that's why everybody's just like, God, something is weird going on with Whitney, and they don't even imagine. They can't even imagine or fathom that she's been drugged or is drunk. Which I don't know if I would have fathomed it either. I'm at a kid's dance.
Hmm.
I Yeah, I don't know. So he wants to take her home. She wants to dance. And she starts to dance really sexy with Chad. And Chad tells her, you don't know what you're doing. She says, well, I know exactly what I'm doing. And she says, you're always telling me to seize the moment. Well, this is my moment tonight, and I feel like seizing every moment of it. And he tries to get her to stop because she's like stumbling around at this point. She's trying
Yeah.
to dance, but she's about to fall over. He keeps having to catch her and put her back up on her feet. And
Hmm.
that is when TC and Eve arrive and are looking through the crowd to find Whitney. And what TC sees is
Hmm.
Whitney falling backwards and Chad lunging to kind of grab her and pull her forward. And when he
Yeah.
grabs her, she comes into him. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so um he's trying to take her home. She's like, no, I don't want to go home. I want to dance. You're gonna ruin my good time. And he finally kind of grabs Whitney and is about to go, and then TC punches him right in the face. Sucker punches him. Punches him.
Like you're not even gonna check on your girl, your little girl. You're just gonna punch the guy without asking him, "Hey, what's going on?" Like real, like TC has such anger management problems. He needs to go talk to someone. Like really,
Yeah.
it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. really pissed me off because it just feels like they're trying to play off that trope of like angry black man, like hit first, ask questions later. This is your daughter. What are you doing? And what example are you setting for people around you? Your best friend is the chief of police. Doesn't mean you get carte blanche to just stop punching people.
Well, apparently it does because Chief of Police Sam Bennett has watched TC try to kill no less than 4 times. Right? So punch.
To be fair, Julian like deserves to get hit. Granted, it's against the law, but it's Julian.
It is
Even
Julian.
not condone him just punching Chad like that.
Yeah, I agree. So he punches Chad. This was so sad. So to me anyway, TC attacks Chad and he's yelling at him, "What are you doing? What are you doing? Get up and take your beating. Get up." And Chad like transports to he has like a PTSD like flashback of being beat as a child by some other man who's punching him and kicking him and telling him like, "Get up and take your beating like a man. What do you think you're doing? Get up." And Chad then said is in like goes into almost a trance and he thinks that TC is whoever that man was. I guess like his foster father.
Yeah.
And he rushes on TC and attacks TC and they say I think like Reese and Miguel are watching and they're like, "Wow, I've never seen Chad look like that. Like his eyes are wild." And so these two men are fighting at in the gymnasium at
Hmm.
the youth center for this children's dance. They're having an all-out brawl.
Yeah. Where are the other adults of this dance?
Why was that grown ass drug dealer allowed to even be able to walk in to
Hmm.
the youth center? Right? Like that's a grown man. This is and he's by himself. This is a dance for the youth, right?
Hmm.
And like I even thought it was weird that Ethan and Gwen went to this dance because I was like, "We're grown adults. What are you doing at the youth center when you can literally go to a you could go to Boston. Like, you don't have to be at this gymnasium."
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, where are the adults? Because that, first of all, that drug dealer never should have been able to get in, and second of all, this should not be going on. The fighting.
No.
Yeah, this should not have been allowed to happen. There should have been an adult who's noticed Whitney acting crazy, while somebody for the children to report to, so that they
Mhm.
could help her. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
absolutely right. Where are the adults? Off doing their own thing, I guess. They not.
Having their own drama.
And Luis is the director. And Luis was having his own thing this week, right?
He was just sobbing and being a poor little puppy.
Poor guy. I can give him a pass. Poor guy this week. He's had a rough week. So uh, after while this is happening, like they're fighting, right? Whitney is then walking around the gym like talking to different guys, making out with different guys. Eve finds her, sees her, and is like, "Whitney, what's going on?" And she's like, "Mommy, I'm so glad to see you. Oh my goodness, I'm having such a wonderful time." And Eve's like, "Honey, are you okay?" And she's like, "I'm great." And then she sees another boy. I think at one point she sees Miguel. She sees Miguel and she's like, "Miguel, you're looking pretty good tonight." Ooh. And she comes on to Miguel.
I put that in my notes, but that was when Miguel had broken up the fight between TC and Chad, and he stays behind, and that's when Whitney comes up. But did you notice how quickly Kay moved in? Kay
Yeah,
was not gonna happen. She walked right over and grabbed him like, "Girl,
yeah.
I'm working way too hard to get this man. I'm gonna fight you now."
Listen. Kay's like, "I have no chance against Whitney Russell. I got at least a chance against Charity. I have no chance against Whitney Russell, right? Like she's Little Miss Perfect. No
Yeah,
chance."
no chance.
Yeah. So that was funny when she pulled him away so fast. Wait, the look that she was giving Whitney, like,
Mm.
"You better back away from my man, girl." Yeah.
Zombie on you too. Watch it.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, these Chad and TC are fighting, and Simone actually, when TC punches Chad the first time and he's just laying there. Simone wants to go over and explain to her dad what's going on, like stop the whole thing. But
Yeah.
Reese won't let her. He's like, "Oh
Makes
no,
no
you
sense.
don't. It's too dangerous over there. You could get hurt."
It's her
That's my
father.
father. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's my father. I think hopefully he'll be able to control himself at least enough to not hit me,
exactly. And if
right?
he doesn't, then maybe that'll get him to like immediately stop after seeing what he just did.
And
If he's in that much of a rage.
And so much of what happens after the dance could have been avoided had the kids just gone over to TC and said, Chad wasn't even here. Simone
Mhm.
had to call him to bring him over here after Whitney started acting like this. So
Exactly.
she called him to help. But nobody at no point no one says that, right? And that's what frustrated me because Simone could have put a stop to this. Reese could have Jessica, Miguel, any one of those kids could have put a stop to it, and they didn't.
Mhm.
Um, and I guess it was just for the plot. So the drug dealer's watching on, and he's like on with Ivy for this whole party, right? And he
Yep.
tells Ivy, he's like, "This isn't fun. It's out of control." And he
How
says,
dare
"The
you say worse, Mr. Drug Dealer?
right, you grew a conscience after drugging somebody's child." He says, the drugs that I put in her drink are causing more trouble than I thought they would. And he said, and Ivy laughs and he's like, I don't know how you could laugh. This is serious. I mean, you're the one who's going around dosing girls. I
And I actually saw how much he did put a lot in that.
Yeah, he poured like a whole like dime baggie
Yeah.
in. Like it was a
Yeah.
baggie of
It
white
was a
powder. Yeah,
it was a lot.
if it was Molly, it was way too much. I'm gonna say that.
Yep.
I'm gonna say that. But my thing is, the cup was tiny. It was a Dixie cup, basically. It was a tiny cup. How she didn't taste it is beyond me. So then I think maybe it is Dixie or Molly. Maybe it's just some made up drug for passions, right? And it's like
I
you
think
can't
cocaine
taste it.
isn't that Ivy's favorite?
What?
The
What?
cocaine.
Oh
Maybe it's
yeah,
cocaine
cocaine.
is Ivy.
Cocaine. That amount of cocaine in your stomach would kill you. that's,
Yeah,
that's for sure.
that's a
Oh,
fact.
and you would definitely taste it. Oh, you would definitely taste it. So, he's like, oh, this thing's out of control, Mrs. Crane. I didn't sign up for this. And Ivy's laughing on the other end. Eventually Reese and Miguel pull Chad away from TC because TC and they're tussling, right? The guys are tussling.
Yeah.
Chad and Miguel, not Chad, Miguel and Reese pull Chad away from TC, and Simone also tries to like hold her dad back. And he is I'm going to be clear. He is kind of restraining himself because Simone is there. That's why I know if she had just gone and not gotten in the middle once they were fighting, but while Chad was down, she would have been
Yeah.
fine. She would not have gotten hit. She would have been absolutely fine. And also, if TC did happen to hit Simone, which I don't think he would have, but if he had happened to hit her in a blind rage, I think it would have sobered him up very quickly. I think he
Yep.
immediately would have been like, oh my God, what have I done? Because as much as
Yep.
TC has a horrible temper, and as much as I am quick to say, like, I don't like TC, I know that man loves his kids.
Yes.
Yeah. I know that man loves his kids. And I just think that he would not have, he never would have, Simone was never in any danger. That's what I'm trying to say. Simone was never
Yeah.
in any danger.
Agreed.
So Elle and Reese are holding Chad back, and Chad comes out of his trance, out of that little state that he was in, and he's like, "What happened? What's going on?" And TC says, "You tried to take advantage of my daughter. We trusted you, and this is how you repay us by treating Whitney like some common street slut." Oh my God. He says,
Are you
"My
not
daughter
paying
is a
attention
good."
to your own daughter?
He says, "My daughter is a good girl, you son of a bitch." Oh my God. Like, like you said, talk to your daughter. Talk to
Yeah,
your daughter. You don't even know what was
exactly.
happening. You don't even know what was
You
happening.
caught 2 seconds of something that you have no idea what it was about.
Yep, exactly.
It
Before you
was
came in
literally
literally
he
swinging.
was just looking for an excuse to hate on Chad again.
I don't want to think that. I think TC's a simple man who has an anger problems, who also is a misogynist, and so he thinks in very simple terms. He is always thinking about the virtue of his like daughters, right? And on top of that, like I said, he has horrible anger issues. And so the minute he sees anybody lay a hand on one of his daughters, especially a man touching one of his daughters, it's like he goes into a blind rage. Like, how dare you? How dare you treat my daughter like a common street slut? She's not a slut. It's like she wasn't slutting it up on him at that moment, right? Like he was
No.
literally trying to hold her up from falling.
Yeah.
Um,
Now, remind me, does Eve and TC know about Saturn's crush on Chad and how they're supposed to be together?
I don't think they know that they're supposed to be together. I do think that they are aware that she has a crush on Chad. I think that was something that was discussed early on when Chad came to town. Um, yeah, that was discussed early on when Chad came to town. I don't think it's been discussed since then, and I really think that because they've been clear with Simone that she's too young to be dating specifically Chad. She's too young for Chad. So I don't think it's come up since then, and that's why I think that's also why Simone, like last week or maybe the week before, was like, "Yeah, Chad's just waiting until I turn 18, right?" Which she should be turning 18 soon, right? She and Charity and Kay are all the same age, I think, right?
Yeah, I think so. And I believe they're only a year behind, like Teresa and Whitney.
Yeah, I think so. So, where was I? Drugs, sad stuff, horrible things. Okay, so Chad frantically after TC's like, "You're treating my daughter like some common street slut, and she's a good of a bitch." Chad frantically denies the allegations. He's like, "I would never do that," and the kid trying to get through to TC as well. They're like, "Yeah, it wasn't Chad's fault," but he won't hear it. He's cutting everybody off. He's yelling. He's just not listening. He is in a blind rage. He's just
Mhm.
all he wants to do is get at Chad's throat. That's it. And Chet's trying to explain, but all the kids, everybody is like, "You need to leave. You need to get out of here. It's not safe for you here." Um, and they're like, "You need to leave because Whitney wouldn't want you fighting with Coach Russell." And so he does leave. And then TC finally gets to see Whitney in action, where Whitney's walk and this was when she walked over to Miguel. This was the
Yeah,
moment that she
yeah.
came onto Miguel and just showing him her feminine wilds, I guess you would say.
It's
Um
like, Miguel. And
yeah,
then, of course, Kay
and Kay
blocked.
pulls her man away. Yeah, she's like, "Miguel, you're looking good. I didn't realize how good you look." Which I would have loved Miguel with Whitney just for a little bit. Just like a little
Right?
like crush, like he had a little crush on Whitney because she's
Mhm.
his sister's best friend, and I just would have liked to see him have like a little crush on Whitney, but I wouldn't have liked to see Kay's diabolical plan carried out against Whitney. I wouldn't
No.
like that.
Oh my God.
I prefer
Yeah.
seeing Charity in the ice block for sure, for sure, for sure, for sure. So TC sees that Whitney is acting strangely and
Mhm.
seductively, right? And they both TC and Whitney realize that something is terribly wrong. And TC says, "What did Chad do to you? Why do you think Chad did this? It doesn't make any sense." The drug dealer's on the phone with Ivy, and he says he had no idea. God, he is the worst drug dealer. He's an irresponsible drug dealer. He's like, "I had no idea that this drug would last this long."
What?
Aren't
I
you?
know.
You are supposed to be the expert on the drugs. Y-
I know. Where are you finding these people? You need a better drug dealer.
She's a much better drug dealer. Like,
Is that the best the Crane money can buy?
he I guess so. Listen, it's the Winthrop money now, right? Like,
That's true.
I don't think
She
she
might
has
be
any.
broke. She
Yeah,
ordered her drug dealer on Wish. I get
she,
it.
yeah, she ordered her drug dealer on Wish. Oh God, Timu drug dealer. So yeah, he's like, "I had no idea the drug would last this long." And then he's like, if I gave her too much that drug, it could affect her heart and she could die. Again, you are the drug dealer. You should have measured out the right amount, the right
Yeah.
dosage. Typically, when
Yeah.
people OD, it's because they take too much of a drug and because
Mhm.
they're not like the expert on drugs, right? And also because they're oftentimes addicts and
Yeah.
so they don't know when to stop, right?
Exactly.
You are supposed to be the person who knows how much will keep your clients alive. You, cause, right?
If you want repeat business, that's how it works.
Yeah,
But with
everybody in
the
this town.
fun comments, get
Everybody in this town is bad at their job.
oh,
Everybody, including the drug dealers. I just love that. I love that. That's a common thread. Everybody in this town is bad at their job, including the criminals.
even the criminals. But mentioning the heart thing makes me now more think that it is ecstasy
Hmm.
because it does actually make your heart race.
Yeah, your heart can
Not that
explode.
I know from experience, of course not.
Not that, no, not that we would, but it is a drug that will affect your heart if you take too much of it. So that's why I also thought, I was like, it must be like ecstasy or Molly, which are basically sisters. Um, and so he's like, if I gave her too much, she could die, and then we'd be guilty of murder I was like, among other things, buddy. Like you are guilty of a lot already.
Yeah,
Like,
child endangerment. Well, I mean, she's 18. Would she still be considered like a child to be charged with child
wouldn't be
endangerment?
child endangerment, but it would there's absolutely several laws he has broken. Like he has assaulted her basically by dosing her and giving her a drug. He
Yeah.
also is out illegal drugs, so that's a drug charge,
Yeah.
right? And there's probably a couple other things, possession, you, you know. So possession with intent to sell. So
Hmm.
um they are trying to get Whitney to leave. TC and Eve are trying to get her to leave. She starts throwing a fit. You're always trying to ruin. You're always trying to ruin my good time. I just want to have a good time. And so then they get her home. Ooh, I can't stand TC, y'all. Let me be clear. Whitney is out of her mind. Like she's losing it. She's just I mean, she's happy go lucky, but it's just it's uncanny, it's weird, it's
Hmm.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
She's being extremely touchy-feely with everybody. She's just not lucid at all. They get her home and she's still acting very erratically.
Hmm.
And then she tells them this important thing. She says, I'm just tired of being a good girl because they're like, Whitney, what happened tonight? They're questioning her, right? And she's just like, I'm just tired of being a good girl. I just want to have some fun. And uh, instead of TC and Eve hearing what their daughter is saying, they both are like, you want to have fun? Who would have put that in your head? TC specifically is like, who put these
Oh.
kinds of ideas in your head that you have to be bad to have fun, that you can't be a
Hmm.
good girl and have fun? You're not listening to what your daughter is saying. She clearly is
Exactly.
wound too tightly, right? She
Exactly.
clearly is under too much stress and under too much pressure. But
Hmm.
they are not hearing. All TC cares about, what can y'all guess what TC cares about? Tennis.
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 He literally has the nerve after, because at some point you're gonna get to the point where she collapsed.
Mm,
Is she gonna be okay tomorrow? Because we have a tennis thing. I'm
yeah.
like, are you kidding me? Your daughter just collapsed on the floor, and you're worrying about is she gonna be okay tomorrow to go do the tennis thing?
Exactly. That was my exact next note, which is Whitney collapses, and all TC cares about is if she'll be okay for her tennis match tomorrow. Something is horribly wrong with her child. And for Eve to look at her baby who has collapsed down on the floor, and she is a medical doctor. Her daughter's been
Hmm.
acting erratically, and now she's collapsed. Girl, if you don't take your daughter to the hospital and have her tested, I and check and have her checked.
But there's no excuse for Eve because even though she's a doctor of all trades, so she's probably like dealt with drug addicts, and maybe not. She herself was on drugs. You're gonna tell me you don't recognize your own the signs?
It took
You
her
should have recognized the signs immediately because you were on drugs.
Yeah. It took her entirely too long to even think that maybe drugs would be involved. It really took her way too long to get to that point. Because when Whitney collapses, she doesn't all she does is like kind of tap her face a little bit and it's like, "Honey, honey, wake up. Honey, are you okay? You're going to be fine. It's okay." Your child has just collapsed in your living room and she's
Mhm.
unresponsive. Call and you're a doctor, for God's sake.
I didn't get it. I didn't get it. I'm like, this is the worst to have in this situation because everyone's going to be screaming, "You're a doctor. Go get your medical bag. Go check her heart. You're going to see that it's racing."
And no, and what bothered me too is that when she did check her pulse, she was like, "Well, her pulse is fine." Are you sure about that? How could it possibly be? What kind of drug is this? What is the
Yeah.
drug, I wonder? Because if she had had enough ecstasy or Molly to make her collapse like that, yeah, her pulse would not sound correct.
Yeah.
Wouldn't sound
Her
right.
eyes should have been dilated. She would have had other classic signs of someone who was on drugs.
Yeah. But of course Eve didn't check any of those because she's a terrible doctor. And
Horrible.
Whitney's unresponsive. Meanwhile, like the drug dealer has followed them home and is watching from outside on the phone with Ivy the
He's more
entire time.
concerned. He's more concerned for Whitney than CC.
He is. He's more concerned for Whitney than TC is. He absolutely is. You're absolutely right. Like he was like, "Oh my God, if that girl dies, it's on my hands. I did this and you did too, Mrs. Crane." And he's really worried about her. I mean,
Yeah.
I think he doesn't want to like kill her, but I also think it's more because it'll
Yeah, it's a
trace
little
back to him.
self-serving. Yeah, it's a little self-serving, but he still showed concern.
Way more concerned than TC, who, like you
Yeah.
said, is like, "Oh, damn it, we have a tennis match tomorrow. Damn Chad for getting her drunk." And here's another thing. Here's another thing. Do y'all smell alcohol on her breath?
Mm,
If she's acting that erratically, she's that drunk, she would smell like liquor. Not only
yep.
that, not only that, she would probably be throwing up. She would not be
Yeah.
well.
Hmm.
We've all been drunk. We know what being drunk is like. We know what it looks like when people are drunk. She's clear
Yeah.
to me. It was like it was so clear she wasn't drunk. It was so
Yeah.
clear. Um, and yeah, they don't even smell. There's no alcohol in her breath. So why do you keep saying, "Damn, Chad, for getting her drunk"? She didn't. She's not drunk, idiot. I hate TC right now. Right now, he's really, really rubbing me the wrong way.
Oh yeah,
Um,
for sure.
so let me tell you this: the drug man tells Ivy, okay, she didn't die because eventually Whitney starts to kind of come around, so she's awake, and so they lay her down on the couch to get a little bit of rest. And he says, uh, you know, she didn't die and she's fine. And Ivy is giddy. I want to tell y'all, Ivy, I'm sickened. I'm sickened. I'm sorry, Karen. I know this is your favorite character girl, but I I am sickened by
Mhm.
Ivy this week because she's giddy at the fact that Eve is going through this thing with her daughter. And she says, she says, "Now Eve sees what happens when you say no to Ivy Crane. And what happens to your family?" Like, girl, I, oh, good. And she says she'll do exactly what I tell her to do from now on. And here's my wonder: does anybody know if Eve ever learns about Ivy's plot? Does Eve learn that Ivy was the one who had her daughter drugged?
I don't remember because I don't even remember that Ivy did this.
Okay, so two things. The first thing is, obviously, I want to see Ivy get her comeuppance for this. I want there to be justice for Whitney in this, because she's such an innocent, and this was really disgusting. The second thing is, if how and I guess I'll see it in the next couple of weeks. But how does Whitney acting like this then force Eve to change the DNA results? Like what? How? I don't. I'm not connecting those two dots. I'm sure they'll connect them for me, and it'll be stupid because to me, it's like it would be a threat. Ivy would reveal, like, yes, I'm the one that drugged your daughter and you should get to your kids anytime I want to, right?
Yeah.
But I don't see Ivy doing that. But that's the only way I could see her, this particular tactic, pushing Eve into a corner.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she's gonna have to admit that it was her
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
did that,
I think
so
so.
that the threat can work. Because other than that,
Otherwise,
Eve's not gonna know.
otherwise they just think Chad drugged her or got her drunk, right? And so I don't know. So um let's see, where are we in this stupid thing? Conversation around Eve being perfect. Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah,
No, what was funny is they put her on the couch, and TC's like, okay, well, you know what? She'll sleep it off, and she'll be okay for tennis the next day.
I can't
You're
stand him.
still worried about tennis? If you think she's drunk, do you think she'll be able to perform with a hangover?
Right.
That
Also,
poor
like,
girl.
she can take a day. Like, let her take this one. Sit this one out, girl. Take a knee. Sit this one
Yeah.
out. Like,
Mhm.
I don't know. Yeah, he's so yucky, especially about this tennis bullshit. He's so
Yeah.
gross.
It was
Um,
fun.
and so there's conversation around Eve like being perfect, and I don't really care about it. TC just talks about how perfect Eve probably was growing up. He was like, I know kids get into wild and crazy things. I know I certainly did, but I'm sure you never did because you're so perfect, and nothing like this would ever happen to you, honey. And so then in Whitney's like sleep state, begins to sing her own version of My Baby's Gone. Loved it.
Yeah.
Wish I could. I
Yeah.
need to get a clip of it and post it. But yeah,
Mhm.
she starts singing her own version of like My Baby's Gone. It's not Eve's version.
No.
TC is stunned by her singing voice. He's like, "Oh my god, she sounds just like a professional." And he wonders, like, where could she have gotten that kind of talent? Nobody in my family can even carry a tune. What about you, honey? Can you sing? Does musicality run in your family? And Eve had, of course, we get a flashback to bring everybody up to speed on the fact that Eve was once a singer, right? And
Yeah.
so, and we also see a flash of her burying that past, right? That she's like, TC can never know about this. Before they got married, she like got rid of all of the evidence that she was ever a singer. So then she
Yeah.
tells him, nope, I don't know. I don't know where she could have gotten that from.
Now,
And
did you get the same impression that I did, that the second he heard her voice and he's like, "Oh my god." Like, I don't know why, but for me, like, I think Cece is seeing dollar signs and probably is gonna say, "Forget tennis, let's go into entertainment."
listen, it was given Joe Jackson. Okay. It was given
Okay,
Joe
that's what
Jackson.
you see. Okay.
Yes. He's like, oh, she sounds like a professional. Yeah, but the
That's
thing is, he doesn't know anything about singing. He knows about tennis, so he's living vicariously through her in the tennis
yeah.
field. But I definitely saw he saw that there's like a possibility there in Whitney's singing voice. Um,
Mhm.
so Eve, TC like goes to the kitchen to get some tea or something, and
Mm.
Eve considers the possibility. Finally, she considers the possibility that Whitney may have been drugged. She's like, maybe it's more than alcohol. And again, you are a doctor. Wouldn't you smell the alcohol? Wouldn't you check for alcohol? There's no trace of
Exactly.
alcohol.
And until she made the connection with the singing, to her singing, and her past drug use during singing, that she's like, "Wait, when he's singing, maybe there's drugs."
Right? You know what? As a singer, I resent this like idea that singing and drug use are somehow linked, right? Like that singing is going to lead you down this horrible path towards out of control drug abuse and like um promiscuous behavior. I do resent that. It's nonsense.
Yeah.
So yeah, she thinks maybe Whitney was drugged, so she decides to give her, like, I guess, take a blood sample. We don't even really see it. We don't even see her do it. We hear the drug dealer outside say that that's what she's doing.
Yeah.
And he tells Ivy we're in trouble if they trace that drug back to us or whatever. But we don't never see her taking that, giving her the test. So I don't know if she actually did it, because when TC comes back, he sees her about to give her a test and he's like, "What are you doing?" And
Mhm.
she's like, I thought maybe there might be more than alcohol or something. And we just cut to the next scene. It was, to me, it was very
Yeah.
sloppy.
It
I
was
was,
kind of left in the air.
yeah, I actually was really disappointed, because I was really hoping that they would go with that. Yes, we need to run some tests and see what's wrong with her, right? Or if
Mhm.
she was drugged, or if there was anything in her system that would be making her act this way. So it is unclear if Eve actually took the blood samples, and if she did, if she's going to do anything with them. But I hope she does.
Mhm.
So at this point, they have taken Whitney up to her bedroom. She's in her bed. Grace and Sam come over.
The only time you see them this week.
Yeah, which I was so fine with.
Yeah.
So fine with. Grace and Sam come over and saying that they heard about what was going on, and they just wanted to check in. And TC starts going in on, it's all Chad Harris's fault. And he's like, if I ever see him again, I'm gonna rip him to pieces. Everybody, Eve, Grace, Sam, I appreciated this. They all defend Chad. They're all like, I don't think Chad would do something like this. Um,
Mhm.
he, um, everything that we know about him really goes to the contrary. He has saved Whitney multiple times, and took a bullet for your wife. Like, why would he do this, right? But TC says it's all an act. He's a phony. He's a low life, and nobody messes with my little girls and gets away with it. And TC's trying to. Sam is trying to kind of calm TC down, but he simply will not hear it. He won't. And then to Grace, Eve says she doesn't think. Yeah, okay. So at one point, Eve says to Grace, like, I don't believe that Chad would do something like this, but we can't we can't negate the possibility that maybe he did slip something into her drink in order to get closer to her. And honestly, I get that. I get where she's coming from. I do. Like, you have to look at all the possibilities.
Yeah.
And that is a possibility. It's possible, it's just
Out of
improbable.
character.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's out of character for Chad because Chad's never shown any signs that he's even comes in contact with any kind of drug.
Yeah.
He needs to do that to get girls either.
Yeah. And he really likes Whitney. He likes the family. Like, why it doesn't entirely make sense that he would do something like this.
Mhm.
But so Eve says, this could be my old sins coming home to roost. I did not understand. I don't understand the connection they're making. Like, I get it that uh Eve was on drugs and she had a wild past.
Yeah.
But what does that have to do with what happened to Whitney tonight? Right? How is this your old sins coming home to roost? If anything, your old sins, and I use the word sins lightly. They use the word sin, so I'm saying it. But let me be clear. I do not believe it is a sin to take any drugs, or especially it's not a sin if you have become addicted to a drug, right? That
Yeah.
is not a sin. It is a problem, and
Mhm.
it needs to be addressed, but it is not a sin, and it's nothing to be like especially if you've gotten clean, it's nothing to be ashamed of, right?
Exactly.
And also the other thing is that she used to have sex with Julian. It's like, you were two consenting adults. I, I, that's not a sin. It's not a sin.
It's it's the secret because she kept it all because she wanted to have this facade of this perfect person. But
Yeah,
if you have to completely reinvent yourself, hide your past for someone, then that's not your person.
that's not your
Because
person.
your person should be able to accept you and your past, because your past is who you are. Your past, you that is what sort of shapes you and as to who you are today.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. So, but I see what you're saying. Yeah, it's the lie more so that's coming home to roost. Okay, I get that. So, meanwhile, let's talk about Chad. What's going on with Chad? My poor baby Chad. This week, I'm gonna tell y'all, Chad is like has become my favorite character. Right? Like, I feel for him so deeply. I appreciated every single thing he said this week. So let's
Mhm.
talk about it.
Yeah.
Chad is extremely upset. He's so hurt. And Simone's like following him. He's like marching around, upset.
Perfect.
And Simone's like following, trying to just, comfort him and stay with him. And I appreciated that for Simone too, because he didn't have anybody with him. He was
Yeah.
alone.
Yeah. Where's Ethan? I forget. Where was Ethan?
Who cares? No, Ethan and had gone to that party. No, because Teresa left, and then yeah, and where was that was my thing too.
They
Wh-
haven't gotten to the youth thing yet, though.
They
That
went.
was, I think, later. Did they?
They went. They were there like last week, and then they weren't there
It
this
was
week.
last week. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. I didn't
they,
see it.
they were there last week because they bumped into Teresa there, and I
That's
guess
right.
Teresa just decided to go home because she wasn't having a good time, and she wouldn't
Because
have
she
expected
saw
anybody
Ethan
to
and
have
Gwen.
drugged Whitney.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
Yeah.
she saw Ethan and Gwen together and she couldn't handle seeing them.
Well, and she and Ethan had a conversation. Look at us talking about them, even though they're not even in this week. She and Ethan had a conversation where he like brought her coat out of like habit outside, and basically he told her, "I wish you nothing but the best, but and I hope you have a wonderful life. It's just not going to be a life with me, right?"
It
I
was
think
actually
after
kind
that,
of nice the way he let her down and sort of just like put the final nail in that. And it's like, yeah, no, this is us breaking up.
yeah,
This is us. It's done. It's
yeah.
over.
It's over officially. And yeah, so I think after that is when Teresa went home, and it's probably when Ethan and Gwen left too.
Yeah.
So because I was wondering, like, Teresa should be here. Right, hanging out with her friend. Teresa's the only reason he's even at this fucking party. Teresa
That's
convinced her to
right.
go. So Teresa honestly, I blame. Now I'm starting. I blame Ivy. I blame the drug dealer. But
Of
I'm
course.
starting to add a little. I'm gonna add a little bit on to Teresa, girl. Why aren't you here with your friend
Yeah.
when you made her come in here in the first place?
Yeah. Very true.
She just
Very
left
true.
her there
Knowing that
alone.
she was emotional too over Chad seeing her with Kelly. Like, why aren't you there supporting her?
Yeah, but I think we learn next week that Teresa is
Yeah,
suicidal.
she's
So
yeah.
yeah, so we'll deal with her next week. Back to
Hmm.
Chad and Whitney. So Chad is extremely upset. He's hurt. Simone's there with him trying to comfort him. And he says, it doesn't matter what I do, people always think the worst of me. He said, I even saved Whitney's life more than once. And I
And
took a bullet for Eve. And after everything I've done, I still can't prove to them that I'm a good guy. And he says they see Whitney acting crazy and they automatically assume that it's my fault. Nothing's ever going to change people's minds about me. I'm nothing but a street punk to them, and that's all I'm ever going to be. And I felt so bad for him. Riff raff, street rat. I don't buy that. Oh, poor kid. Oh, he's like, that's all they see me as. And honestly, it did
he's
piss me
not
off.
he's not wrong, at least in TC's. At least we can say that is not everyone, Chad. Everyone does give you the benefit of the doubt. We're just talking about TC. Unfortunately, he's the father of the girl that you have a crush on.
Yeah. And I think because at the gym nobody would let him kind of talk to TC, nobody would ever. I think he took that as people, but I know that the kids do not think that Chad did anything. But I think he took it that way because nobody would let him get his side of the story out, right? Everybody just keeps saying like you need to leave, you need to leave, you need to leave. And it would make you feel cuz he is in a way an outsider of this town. These people have known each their entire lives, a lot of them, right? And
Yeah.
so if you're in a situation where you're being attacked, and then on top of that, nobody will let you say your side of the story or your point, give your point, then it would feel like these people do not care about me. They must think that I'm horrible. They must believe me over me, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, and so Simone is like, I'll tell my parents and they'll feel sorry for the way they treated you. Like I'm gonna tell them what happened. Don't worry. And he says, "You know what? You should just save your breath." And he walks away. And not like save your breath talking to me. Save your breath from talking to your parents because they're not going to believe me or believe
Yeah.
you. And then now let me. I want to say this. I did say that Chad was like my favorite this week, but he did make some interesting choices I did not agree with. Number one, Number one, he decides to go to the Russell house, straight into the danger, right? He decides to go over there. He's like, I need to check on Whitney. Simone
Mhm.
begs him because this girl knows her father.
Her
Listen,
father.
I'm the same way. I know my daddy. I know that man. And my dad also has like pretty, well, when I was growing up, he had really rough, really bad anger issues. Now, as I've gotten older, it's not nearly as bad as it used to be. But
Mhm.
if a similar situation was going on in my family, I would be exactly what Simone, I would be doing exactly what Simone was doing. It's like, I know my dad, you need to go home, right?
Yeah.
Like, I know my father, you need to go home. He'll calm down by tomorrow and you can talk to him tomorrow. I'll talk to him tonight, but you cannot be here tonight. And that's basically what Simone's trying to tell Chad. And she's
Yeah.
begging him to leave and go home. Oh, but the thing is, and I thought about this, I was like, Chad lives at their house.
Oh, he mentions that later.
Yeah, I'm so glad
He
he did
mentions that
because I was
later.
like, he lives at their house. Where is he supposed to go? Because it's not like he can stay with Ethan. Ethan doesn't have anywhere to live either.
Exactly.
I guess he could
And
maybe stay at the book
he
cafe.
moved out of the Lopez Fitzgerald house, right? They
Yeah,
didn't
he
say
moved
where he
out.
went though.
They did not say where he went, but he did move out. He might be staying at the B&B.
Very true.
That would
Very
make the
true.
most. I feel like that would make the most sense considering he is Sam's son,
Right? You would
right?
think Sam, or let Sam stay in that little room that Sam was staying in when Grace kicked him out. He
Exactly.
could
Yeah,
stay
he could stay
there.
there. So he has options. He has options. So
But my question is, TC is so upset about Whitney. Whitney is obviously his favorite because at no point is he wondering, where is my daughter Simone?
hello, especially considering you think Chad did all of this to Whitney and Chad's still out here and you know Simone has like a crush on him and was trying to defend him, so you know that Chad would be with Simone. But you think Chad is so horrible. Yeah, you're right. He only cares about Whitney. And the only reason he cares about Whitney is because she plays tennis.
Because tennis, because, he could drug Simone too. You're not worried about that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why
Mm-hmm.
isn't he now saying, stay away from my family
Yeah. Not
and
only
took Simone with him?
not only that, but he could be trying to like exact revenge, right? Considering TC did attack him, right? He could be like, you know what? I'm gonna take it out on the nearest Russell, and that's Simone. Not that Chad would do that. We know Chad would never do that. But you're
Never.
right in like, why wouldn't TC be more concerned about where Simone is? Same for Eve. Why wouldn't you be more concerned about where Simone is? It's because they don't care about her. She's
Poor
like
thing.
she's the youngest, but she's the middle child, right? Like
Yeah,
she's
exactly.
somehow the forgotten middle child, even though they only have two kids.
Can you imagine if TC had had a son, what the son would be like?
If TC had, he would never speak to these girls.
That is true.
He would never speak to these girls. They wouldn't exist. He would not remember their names. Listen, he half the time he doesn't even call Simone Simone. He calls her Sugar Bear because he doesn't remember her name. Let's be clear,
Oh
right? He doesn't remember her name. He's like, I'm gonna call her Sugar Bear, whatever her name
my
is. You girl over there. You know your name. My mom, now let me say this. My mother all the time like gets my name mixed up with like my brother and my sister and has for like my entire life. And also with now that I have nieces and nephews with their names and stuff too. And oftentimes she'll be like, Keisha, Randy, Reed, boom, yeah, night. Girl, you know what your name is. Come over here. Like,
grandmother too.
you know what your name is. Come over here.
That is
So
hysterical. That is so true.
So in the podcast, whenever I'm like, you know, that girl, whatever her name is, that's my mother coming
That's
through me. That
and
other one.
because you can't remember the characters' names.
Wait, say that again.
Because you can't remember the characters' names.
Yeah, sometimes they don't come to me really fast. Like sometimes I'll be like, and also there's so many names. I'm like, that one, the one with the blonde hair, that girl, the annoying one. And y'all, you got it.
What?
Well, I was thinking Charity, but you said Gwen, so okay. So let's finish this up. We've been talking for a minute.
Yeah.
So yes, Chad decides to go over to the Russell home, even though Simone begs him not to. Chad says, but I need to get this straightened out right now, tonight. I need to straighten things out. I want to check on Whitney. I'm very worried about her. And two, I
Yeah.
need to straighten things out with your father.
Which is noble of him.
Yeah, it is. He should have just waited till the next day.
Stupid, but noble.
Yeah. So, Chad goes into the house and everybody's in the kitchen. Whitney, nope, see? I can't get the names. Eve, TC, Grace and Sam are all in the kitchen. They hear the front door open and TC's like, "Oh, that must be Simone now." You should have taken her with you. Why leaving her alone to her own devices? She's your youngest child. But he's like, "That must be Simone now." Goes into the living room, sees Chad. "What the hell are you doing here?" Immediately just starts to go in on him, right? Just immediately attacks him. So yep. I mean, that was predictable, utterly predictable.
Exactly. Yeah. But luckily Sam was there this time to help break it up.
Yeah, Sam manages to pull TC off. He's like holding TC back. He tells Chad that he needs to leave. Chad's trying his best. He's like, "It wasn't me. I didn't do this. I don't know what. Whitney was acting strangely. I was trying to help." Nobody's really listening to him. Grace, they all tell him like he needs to leave. And he's like, "Where am I supposed to go? I live over their garage." And I was like, "Yeah, where is he supposed to go?" Grace says, "The room number 5 at the B&B is open. You can stay there as long as you want," which was so nice of her to say. And he agreed. He says like, "Thank you, Mrs. Bennett. I appreciate it." And he does eventually leave. He does eventually leave. He wants to stay, but Sam is like, "You need to go. Leave. Get out of here. Get out of here."
Don't force me to have to arrest my best friend because I don't like the job.
I don't he doesn't. I don't want to have to do my job, man, right now. So after Chad leaves, TC says to Sam, "Why did you arrest him?" "Why didn't I arrest you?" "Excuse me? What do you mean, why didn't I arrest him? You were attacking him. I have no proof he did anything to Whitney. I watched you beat his ass."
Exactly.
"Why didn't you arrest Chad?" Ooh, I'm not your own personal police force. Let me be
All
clear.
right.
And so then Sam gets a phone call and we're gonna get to that next. This is a good segue. Sam gets a phone call from Jessica that something's wrong with Charity. What else is new? They can't find Charity, so he enlists TC. Says, "I might need your help. We need to get out." And TC's like, "Well, I'm not done with Chad yet." And Sam's like, "The hell you aren't." He's like, "That's enough. I got to put my foot down. I got to draw the line somewhere." He's like, "You are done for the night with Chad. Come on, I need your help, buddy."
Yeah.
So now, the next scene, y'all, this is where I was like, "Chad, you have lost me entirely. You have lost me entirely." We get a scene. I was like, I know this boy is not about to do what I think he's about to do. We get a little scene of Whitney in her bedroom asleep. It's dark. And then we see the window and somebody's coming through the window. It's Chad. Chad is sneaking into Whitney's room through the window, which we've seen him do before. But this time is particularly egregious considering what he just went through. So he walks over to Whitney. He kind of looks at her. She stirs. She wakes up and he asks her if she's okay. And she immediately just like starts to kiss him, right? She's like, "I am now." And she starts to kiss him. And that is where we ended this week. But Grace and Eve.
Grace are on their. Oh, yeah, you were going to say.
Yeah, Grace and Eve are on their way up to her bedroom.
Mhm.
And I did listen. It was such a cliffhanger that I went on to the next episodes and started like I was just fast forwarding through to get to the Chad and Whitney stuff because I was like, are they gonna get caught? And yes, they do, y'all. So yeah, Chad has a death wish. Why would you do this? It makes you look so guilty.
It does. That's how you get caught. Like,
That's how
you
you
don't
get.
look up into people's. If TC knew what you just did, then everything you're trying to do and prove you're a great guy, dude, that's breaking and entering.
Yeah.
Sam will you. You're gonna make Sam do paperwork.
You're gonna
Stop.
make him do some work. He's gonna have to file a report. Ah. All right, y'all. That's it for them this week. We talked a while for them, but that was the bulk of the week.
Yeah, that was the bulk, and it was good.
Yeah, and
It
it
was
was
good.
good. And again, it was a nice change of pace to be able to see Whitney and Chad doing some stuff that was
Mhm.
centered on them and not centered on Ethan and Teresa.
Exactly,
Yeah,
following them around. Yeah, those
yeah,
actors were gone on vacation. They probably needed a break from their storyline.
yeah. So now it is time to do our magic storyline. Shout out to Eric who sent me clips for different musical cues. So thank you so much, Eric. And I did add them to the soundboard like I said I would. So and if y'all have any other like little snippets and sounds, feel free to send them. You can just send videos and I can rip the sound. That's what Eric did. Um
Done. I'm gonna send you so many great things. You have no idea.
yeah. So we're getting into magic, y'all. Lord Jesus. It wasn't a lot. It was honestly so much of it was like Tabitha telling the Antony and Cleopatra story.
I know that was so interesting. Wait till we get to that because I have things to say about the snake.
The snake was so
What I
ridiculous.
have to say is my favorite character all week.
Was the
Okay,
snake?
the snake and his quips. I mean, if none of what the snake said is not an episode title, it's disappointing.
Well, you're gonna have to listen. The episode title is in well, what I think will probably be the episode title is in Magic. Because my favorite line I think was that is the rudest zombie Tim ever met.
That was good. That was good. No, but wait, let me get. Oh, this thing is not working right now. Trying to scroll. So my favorite part, my favorite snake quote was. Oh, where is it? Oh, should I bite that babe now?
Should I bite that babe now? Yeah. So
No.
get into
Let's get
what's
into
going
it.
on with these folks over here in this magic storyline. So, Evil Charity, y'all will remember, Evil Charity and Tabitha and Timmy are in the cave where Icicle Charity is, right? And they're like blocked in by rocks and whatever. Evil Charity has started threatening Tabitha, is taunting Tabitha and Timmy, telling them, do you think you can handle what's coming your way? And just like all of these veiled threats.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, I'm so much worse than the two of you could ever imagine. And then her little fingies start to
Yes.
glow red and she shoots like fireworks out of them.
It was like electricity. She turned into Palpatine from Star Wars.
It's like
Started
red
shooting.
electricity. It was weird. She's shooting out at them. And meanwhile, Miguel insists that they need to go into this cave because he's hearing voices. So, like, Miguel's outside with Kay. Kay is trying to keep him from coming inside because she knows what's inside. But of course, she's like, "No, Miguel. How could he? How could Charity even be in there? How could anybody be in there?" Because at this point, he doesn't believe Charity's inside. He just hears voices. He's such a
Yeah,
annoying character.
he's a
It's
little
like
annoying.
somebody. He just wants to be a savior so fucking badly. It annoys the
Yeah,
crap out of me. It really does.
yeah.
So they're outside, and Miguel insists that they need to go into the cave because voices. Kay's trying to keep him from going in. And he's like, I have to see what's in there. So Miguel is frantically trying to get into this cave, trying to pull the rocks away. Kay's like, well, it's so cold. Like, bless her little heart. She's trying to figure out ways to get him to leave, but he doesn't care about her really,
I
right? Like, you're
know.
having to do all of this to just even get him to pay any attention to you in the first place. So he doesn't care that you're cold. He only cares what's behind these
No,
rocks, right?
he's the worst best friends ever. Because that's supposed to be his best friend.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, you don't even treat her like she's a classmate in your school. Like, let alone your best friend.
No. Because she's like, I'm so cold. Can we? It's cold out here. Can we go home? There's nothing behind the. How could anybody be behind the rocks? He's like, I'm not leaving. He's like, you can leave if you want to, but I'm not leaving until I find out what's inside this cave. He sucks. I'm sorry. I don't like him. I never have, to be honest. I don't think I've ever liked Miguel.
I kind of always liked him. I thought he was kind of cute, but he's dumb. He's as dumb as some of the other guys in this town.
He's one of the dumbest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. I'm trying to think of who's dumber than Miguel.
Ethan, obviously.
Even Ethan gets it right sometimes.
Well, I mean, a broken clock is right twice a day.
Twice a day.
I mean, Miguel's not wrong all the time either.
I think Miguel is dumber than Ethan because at least Ethan, even though he is a bad lawyer, he is a lawyer, right? Like he does have a law degree. So I'm gonna go with Miguel's the dumbest in town. I think we ranked the dumbest one time on like a post show. I'm gonna have to find that list. We definitely ranked who's the dumbest and who's the smartest of the men and of the women. I'm gonna have to pull that list out again and
Okay.
see if that's how we ranked him. But yeah, Miguel's an idiot. So he tells Kay, you can leave if you want to, but I'm staying here. I'm not going to leave until I find out what's behind these rocks. And then he's like, I'm certain I hear a voice. And then he's like, that voice does sound like Charity. Sounds like she's angry. What if she's trapped? Because Charity is inside. Zombie Charity is inside, threatening
Yeah.
the two, Tabitha and Timmy.
Mm-hmm.
So he does hear her voice, right? Like, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
Kay keeps trying to keep him from going inside. She's like, "There's nobody in there. Maybe you just think it's Charity." Everybody's always using this excuse. You just think it's this person because you want it to be this person so badly.
He was obsessed with Charity, though.
What?
He is obsessed with Charity.
He is obsessed with Charity. He is obsessed with Charity. So it does stand to reason that he would be hearing like phantom Charity voices in his head. Have you ever
Exactly.
have you ever worked a job where you had to answer phones a lot?
No.
Okay, I used to work at hotels, and the phones would ring all the time, a lot. And I swear to God, I would be hearing those phones ringing in my sleep. Like
Oh, no.
I would hear phantom ringing and I would think that I'm hearing the phones. So yeah, he does hear Charity go, Miguel, help, so often that he probably is hearing like that phantom voice in his head.
Exactly. Even
Like,
though she's been treating him like crap for the last few weeks, though.
yeah. And yeah, well, Kay kind of says as much. She says you just think it's Charity because you're upset about the way she's been treating you the last few weeks, like that, and that she was so rude to you at the party. And he says, even if it isn't Charity, then somebody is in there and they are in trouble and they need my help. Fine, whatever, Miguel. So in order to keep Miguel from finding Zombie Charity, in order to keep Miguel from finding them, Zombie Charity, Tabitha, and Timmy, Zombie decides to seal the cave with some kind of ooze, some kind of black ooze that
Yeah.
she's like, that it's stronger than this ice. He'll never be able to get through this. Um, and so Miguel can't get in. He's like frantically trying, but he can't because the zombie has used her powers to seal the cave as tightly as she possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tabitha, this is when we begin where Tabitha is explaining to the zombie Charity how it's not as easy as you think it is to break up Charity and Miguel. And she says this to her over and over and over again this week. It's not so easy. He doesn't give up quickly. He's not going to actually, in fact, he doesn't give up. He's not going to give up. He's going to keep hanging away at those rocks until he gets in here. Basically, is what
Exactly.
Tabitha is saying to uh
Zombie Charity.
Zombie Charity. Thank you. Is what Tabitha's saying to Zombie Charity. Zombie Charity's like, oh, I'm sure. She's very smug. She's very arrogant. Considering, girl, you just got here, right?
Yeah, but there's a reason why she's being smug.
Yeah, because
Yup.
she has Tabitha's powers. We learn that the friends in the basement, which let's talk about them. I want to talk about them in a minute too. We have
Mhm.
learned that the friends in the basement have bestowed Tabitha's old power onto Zombie Charity, as well as Tabitha's old job, right? Tabitha's out of a job, and she's been out of her powers, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, she's taunting Tabitha, telling her, ha 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 ha, they gave me your powers,
Mhm.
I'm gonna
She
destroy
actually
you.
says, and I wrote this down. She said, "You screw everything up, Tabitha. In fact, just a month ago, your friends in the basement asked you to make sure that Ian Winthrop didn't survive the case of the African flu. You notched that up, and instead, some guy named John is the winner of Survivor Africa."
I was gonna ask you because you don't watch Survivor, you watch Big Brother, right?
Yes, I do. No, I watched Survivor, and I remember when Beth said it because I we just finished like the third season of Survivor, and he did win, and I'm like, that is so funny. That both, which is weird because one is a CBS show and the other one's an NBC show, so it's weird that it got referenced. But I was dying because Passion likes to do that sometimes, just throw in like pop references of the time. That
Yeah.
was hysterical, and it brought back memories. I was like, I remember that season.
And like Survivor was such a big deal in the early 2000s. Such a
Yeah.
huge deal. So it would make sense that they would bring in, they know that people like to hear those like little references, those little things sprinkled in, and they would be excited. Cuz and I mean, I didn't watch Survivor. I've never watched any Survivor. I've only seen like clips that
Watched season one.
there's so much of it now that I feel like it's such an undertaking cuz I've seen clips of it where I'm like this actually looks like it might be really good, you know?
It
But
was
I'm
good.
like
It
but
was
I'm
good.
but I'm like, I don't know if I can take on another TV show, especially one that's like that big and so long.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. But I was actually quite happy to see that the basement was actually trying to off Ethan.
yeah, hilarious, hilarious, and I. Yeah, I love that. I wrote that exact thing down in my notes as well. Some
Oh,
guy
good.
named
Okay.
Ethan Zahn is the winner of Survivor Africa.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so she explains, you screw everything up, Tabitha. That was also in the running for that is also in the running for episode title. You screw everything up, Tabitha. Cuz I think that's a good burn of the week, honestly.
Yeah.
So, she then tells Tabitha and Timmy, "It's all over for you. Prepare to die." That old yarn. We saw this. It's funny
Yeah.
because we're doing zombie charity now, but we did evil charity around like episodes 200, 250, and it's basically the same thing. It's pretty much the
Mhm.
same thing. I enjoy it. I really enjoy it, but this is exactly what she was doing the last time. Like, prepare, I'm gonna kill you. Zap, 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 and
Yeah.
then nothing, right? Um, and so Timmy tells Evil Charity that she shouldn't kill he like stands up for Tabitha. He's like, "You shouldn't kill Tabitha because she's well over 300 years old and you should respect your elders." You should respect her because she's so old. And then he also cites her grand achievements in evilldom, right?
Yes.
She sank the Titanic. She started the Chicago fire, the San Francisco earthquake, even Pompeii. And Tabitha's standing there like, "Yes, I did. I did."
Mhm.
And then we get a little tidbit that I didn't know about Tabitha, which I was appreciative of, because Zombie Charity says, "Ha, how could she have possibly done Pompeii? It was in like 740 BC or something, whatever year she said."
Yeah.
And that's well before Tabitha was alive. And
Mhm.
Tabitha's like, "Ha, it shows how much you know, Miss Missy. My powers allowed me to go and back as far as I wanted to in time." So she was able to time travel. I didn't realize Tabitha could time travel, but I love that.
Yeah. No, I know. It's awesome.
I love
I
that.
love that.
Yeah, and yeah, that's such a cool little tidbit that they just kind of threw in. But I love it because you can say you can attribute absolutely anything to Tabitha at that point, right?
Exactly.
It's
You
like,
could get her in any costume at this point
yeah,
of
it's
any
like
time period.
it's like, "Oh, you think it was a meteor that took out the dinosaurs? No, baby, that was me. That was
That
Tabitha
was me.
Lennox. I took those
No,
beasties out."
if she can go into the past, can she go into the future?
I was wondering the same thing, but she didn't mention the future. She only mentioned the past. So I think maybe there's limits. I think
Okay.
maybe there's limits. So
She tends to know what's gonna happen.
yeah,
She has,
she's definitely clairvoyant in that way. Like
yeah.
she has foresight. So
Mhm.
maybe she can go into the future, but that wasn't mentioned. It was only that she could go as far back as she wanted to. So she could go to year 1 if she wanted to. Um then Zombie Charity, it seems like she's like taking Timmy's like advice, and it's like, "Oh, I didn't realize that Tabitha had done all that. Wow. Prepare to die." Right?
I will give credit. The actress Molly did such a great job with this. I was really enjoying her performance,
Oh yeah.
and I'm glad they gave her something that isn't, oh, Miguel, Miguel, Miguel.
I am thrilled to see her doing anything other than what she normally does, right? And
Yes.
and I'm thrilled that it is so dynamic and it's so exciting. And one of my favorite things that she does is when she's Zombie Charity pretending to be regular Charity is like one of my favorite things, right? Like in
Hmm.
these episodes, she kind of throws her voice and she's like, Miguel, Miguel. Like she knows how annoying it is, right? As an actress.
Yes.
And I love it. She's like rolling her eyes as she's pretending to be Charity. So um anyway, yeah, Zombie Charity, she's starts chasing them around. She's like shooting uh not fire, lightning kind of out at them.
Hmm.
And then she does like a book product placement for Hidden Passions.
Oh my God. I was dying. And then I'm like, I have that.
The same.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's holding up the book like she's a spokesmodel for it, and she's just like, I learned everything from the paperback version of your book because it has
Yeah.
extra new notes, different things that weren't in the hardcover. And it was funny because Timmy's like, what is she talking about? And Timmy's like, well, Timmy had to add some extra stuff in, like to help people out. I don't know. It was cute. It was fun. It was campy, and it's one of the
Yeah.
things that you love about Passions. And so then Tabitha stalls her by telling her about things that she did in the past. She's like, "You could never do what I did. You could never do what I do. How much misery I've caused, and how well I've how." Because I think Tabitha at this point is kind of rebutting the "you screw everything up" Tabitha line. That whole like, you can't do anything right, and Tabitha's like, no, I've been doing things right for over 300 years. It's just that this particular couple is hella hard to break up. And so she's like, I even broke up Antony and Cleopatra, right? And she tells this whole story about Antony and Cleopatra. So we get the most glorious, ridiculous Antony and Cleopatra flashback with uh Timotheus. I think Timmy is Timotheus and
Prometheus.
Tabitha and is Tabitha.
No,
Yeah.
Tabitha.
Yeah, and I just loved it. So Tabitha happened to be Cleopatra's, and a reminder for everybody who doesn't know, Antony and Cleopatra are Luis and Sheridan.
Yes.
That's one of their past lives. If you don't
Because
remember.
besides trying to keep Charity and Miguel from like doing the deed so that Charity could come into her full power, Tabitha's other gig is keeping Sheridan and Louise apart throughout all the ages.
Exactly. And I guess this is Charity and Miguel's first life. This must be their first life. Because it seems like she
Right?
would have been having to keep them apart forever. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So she tells this story about how she was a handmaiden basically to, or a lady's maid to Cleopatra. And we all know that Cleopatra died from a snake bite. At least that's what like the mythology is. That's how the
Yeah.
story is told.
Hmm.
Well, we learn that Tabitha is responsible because she brings a snake in this like giant basket. There's a snake inside, and now Maria, tell us about the snake.
Oh, this thing it's hysterical because to me it looked like it's a sock puppet. So it looked like it's somebody with a hand,
Yeah.
but it talks and it has all these funny whips. Like she goes to like grab him, and he's like, "Ouch, it hurts!" And that's when you're realizing it's talking. And then he turns around, and he's like, "You watch what you're doing." Oh, do I bite that?
Yeah.
Tabitha's like, "No. What about now? No. What about now? No. Now?"
And then when it is time to bite her, he doesn't do it, which was so funny.
Like, he's like, "I just can't turn it on and off. It has to be organic."
Yeah, he's like, all of a sudden he wasn't in the mood to bite her. So Tabitha had to take matters into her own hands, quite literally. She pulls the snake out and she just attacks Cleopatra with it. She goes over and stabs her in the chest. The snake bites her. Before that happened, we hear Cleopatra talking about how she's ready to renounce her throne and run away with Antony with all 300 of her servants and live a life of love.
The name is Marcus Antonius, which is obviously supposed to be like Marc Antony. Is that his actual name?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Marcus Antonius, or we call him Marc Antony for short. You know.
I'm just saying, because as a Latin person, there's a different Marc Antony.
There is the Marc Anthony.
The Marc Antony.
Yeah, the voice of a generation.
I know.
So, yes, we learned before she dies, we learned that she was planning to renounce her throne and she was going to run away with Marc Antony. Anyway, he shows up after having had the cutest little talk with Timotheus outside about like love, and we get a
soldier.
Yeah, he's a soldier
and very serious.
Yeah, a centurion. Marc Antony tells Timotheus, "You're one of the bravest soldiers I've ever had the pleasure of serving with," and I'm sure that because he has a crush, Timmy has a crush on a girl, it's Charity. So it's not Charity's first life.
No, it's not. I was gonna say, I was like, oh, Charity made an appearance.
Yeah, Charity made an appearance in this, so it can't be her first life. But yeah, he's like, "I'm sure the fair maiden will see your virtue, and I'm sure you'll get the girl." It was lovely. So then he goes inside and finds his love dead on the floor, and then he sees Tabitha with the snake, chops its head off, and
justice for the snake.
Questions her about what happened, and she's like, "Oh, I tried to stop her." she's like she just couldn't bear the thought of giving up her kingdom, and so then he takes that really personally. He's like, I thought that she was okay with it. I can't believe that I made her do this. So he thinks that she did it because of him, and then he draws his sword, and he seppukus himself, takes himself out too, right?
It's suddenly turned into a Romeo and Juliet situation.
Yeah. So lie dead on the floor. So that was their one of Sheridan and Luis's past lives, which was an enjoyable little like break in the week with all the costumes. Yeah. The costumes were really good, especially Cleopatra's.
Right, that big headpiece, it was gorgeous.
And I love the way they had Tabitha's hair up and like flowing down. She looked really pretty too. So.
And she had her bangles, so you kept hearing her bangles still.
I love that she was still like jingling and jangling around in ancient Egypt. I love that. So I went through a lot of my notes without even looking at them. So now I need to know where we are in the story. Okay, so back in the cave after Tabitha tells her whole little story, Timmy notices that Charity's heart is glowing. And then he says, guys, I think we should leave before Miguel comes back, because Kay and Miguel end up leaving, but they go back to the dance to get some help, right? Miguel's like, I'm going to go get some help from Reese and, just try and get somebody else out here, right? So Timmy, the smartest cookie in the cave right now. Timmy's like, we should get out of here before Miguel comes back, because Timmy knows Miguel will come back. Tabitha does too. Of course. Yeah. Zombie Charity's so arrogant. She's like, why would he come back? Why would he come back? He knows that he can't get in. Why would he come back? And Timmy keeps going, you understand that love conquers all. And at one point, Zombie Charity's like, oh, that's sweet. You should embroider it on a pillow. And
Oh.
at one point, Timmy says, that is the rudest zombie Timmy's ever met, which was probably one of my favorite lines of the week. Because she is being
Well, because
rude.
she doesn't just say embroider it on a pillow, but she's like, and then like gag on it.
Yeah, that's what it
And
was. Yeah,
yeah,
and then gag on it. Oh, hilarious. But we do notice that Charity starts to melt. Charity is the real Charity is starting to melt, and her heart is glowing. And they realize that it's because Miguel, in fact, is coming back, and now he's like working even harder to get to Charity. Like it's their love, right?
yeah,
That's making the cave warm. At one rose petals begin to fall, and the smell of roses, they can smell roses outside of the cave.
yeah,
Yeah,
yes. And it starts to rain, and they're like, "What's going on? Is it global warming?"
hilarious. They were trying to figure out why Charity was melting, and
Yeah,
and Timmy's like maybe it's global warming. I loved it. I loved it. It was so perfect for 2002. Maybe
yeah,
it's global
exactly.
especially the way they dismissed it was exactly how
Yeah,
how
and
people
then
talked
when
about global warming.
Charity, and then when Charity's heart was glowing red, Simi's like, "Well, that's what I call heartburn."
Yeah, he had a lot of cute little clips this week because he's the one that said the
Mhm.
thing about the global warming. He and the
Yep.
root zombie thing. Timmy was on fire this week.
Yes, he
Um,
was.
Zombie Charity does try to refreeze Charity.
Mhm.
Blows like I guess she has ice breath like Superman, and she blows it on her,
Right.
and and um and it does start to refreeze, but it immediately starts melting again, and
Yeah.
then chunks of it starts to fall off. Chunks of ice start to just fall off. They
And
need
you
to get out.
notice that it gets much more closer to her. Like it is melting. The ice is getting smaller.
The ice is rapidly melting, right?
Mhm. Yes.
Rapidly melting very quickly. So, at this point, it's too late for them to try and leave because Miguel has come back with Reese and Jessica and Reese has some kind of sonar thing that will tell you if there's a cave behind the rocks because Miguel's like, I don't know what's behind the rocks, so they check with the sonar, whatever. He's like,
Yeah.
oh my god, there's a huge cavern back there. Um,
Yep.
and so because Charity continues to melt, Tabitha tells Zombie Charity, I think Miguel is back and I think he's trying to get back into the cave again. Zombie Charity does not believe her for whatever reason. She's like, why would he come back?
Yeah.
There's no way he came
And,
back.
and it's like this is what we call the jig is up.
Yeah. And she's like, they go back and forth. And finally, Zombie Charity like creates a little like viewfinder kind of thing, magic view, puts on a little map
Yeah.
and she can see outside that they're out there. And she says, I fine, you were right. Miguel's out there with the other losers, which is so funny to me. Miguel's out there with those other losers. And yeah, Zombie Charity is falling off. I mean, not Zombie Charity, Charity, regular Charity
Yeah.
is melting. Zombie Charity and Tabitha and Timmy are all kind of scrambling to figure out how they can get out of this situation. And then
Hmm.
Zombie Charity creates an illusion of real Charity's voice. So she throws her voice in a different direction and it's Miguel, help, Miguel. It was again, I loved it when she did it. I love anytime she's making fun of that character.
That was a good impression. I almost believed it.
Yeah. And so outside the cave, the kids hear Miguel's voice. Charity's voice very loudly coming from like the woods in the opposite direction. So they go to try and find her. They go out. Kay stays there and then wait a minute cuz I went into the next episodes. Did Zombie Charity turn into a puddle this week?
Yes, she did.
Okay.
She did.
Cuz I don't sometimes if I try not to watch ahead too much because I start to conflate things.
Yeah.
Um but
She turns into black ooze and
yeah,
oozes right, and starts in a cake.
yes, she manages to escape. She's like, "See you, suckers."
Bye, losers.
Yeah. And yeah, and then she talks to Kay and tells Kay that she needs to make sure that Miguel does to the cave, right? It's like, this is on
Mhm.
you, Kay. And that's pretty much where we ended this week. Yes?
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Great. Magic. That's all for magic. And now,
I
now,
know.
now on to Shoeise.
Yay!
On to Shoeise. There's honestly, I took 2 full pages of notes, but there's not that much to talk about. There's not that
No,
much to talk
it's
about.
very
They
repetitive.
very repetitive. They keep having these same conversations. In fact, Luis is having the exact same conversation Sheridan is, right?
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so let's pick up on the island, I guess. Ugh, with these people,
Well,
Brian.
uh, the book comes in though. Doesn't
The
that
book
happen
does come
before
in.
that?
The book does come in, so we'll talk. We'll definitely talk about the book. We'll talk about that. That is one of the things that happens. But
Okay.
the bulk of this week, a lot of the same conversations, like over and over again,
Yeah.
right? So, at the top of the week, we just recap the triangle stuff between Sheridan and Luis, and how Sheridan was like coming in and out of this dimension, it seemed. And so Brian is talking to Liz, and he's sitting outside of Diana's room, which I kind of get because she has been sleepwalking a lot, and she did like just like walk out into the ocean like 2 times. So I kind of get that he's kind of standing guard over her. Fine. And at least he's outside and not inside her room, like staring at her like he normally is. So
Yeah.
he's having a conversation with Liz, and he says, I don't know if she'll ever be able to move on with her life. Even though she has amnesia, she's still in love with that man from her past. Um, and Brian is, I'm sorry, Sheridan is having dreams of Luis while she's in bed, and she kind of stirs. She's like, I
Hmm.
know you're out there. I know you're out there. Right. And she's still in bed. Meanwhile, Brian and Liz are outside, and Liz tells him she can't stand. Wait, he can't. Yeah. Liz tells him, you can't stay out here all night. And she offers him some tea. She's like, let me make you some tea and then we can go to bed. Right. And basically, she's being very reasonable and a nice person. Nice, if you ask me, because
Hmm.
Brian, out of the absolute clear blue sky, says to her, Liz, do you hate me for caring about Diana the way that I do? I can't stand him. I cannot stand him. Do I hate you? I just offered tea for you. What are you talking about?
Exactly.
He
Like,
makes
what is wrong with you?
he
Like,
makes
does
me
he
sick.
know that she has a crush on him?
They had a thing. Like
Thing.
yeah, we've established that they definitely had a thing.
Hmm.
And that Brian basically said, we don't know the details, ins and outs, but what Brian basically said a few weeks ago was that the two of them at the time were in very different places emotionally, and so it just like didn't work out, I guess. And
Okay.
Liz has basically said that he wasn't interested or willing to like be in a committed relationship with her or commit to caring for her the way she needed it for, basically.
But
um
he can commit to her hotel and live there rent free.
Hello. Hello. Listen.
Just
I,
say
he's a deadbeat, and I cannot stand him. Yeah, out of the clear blue sky, after she's being very reasonable, very nice to him, he's like, oh, now the time you choose to try and talk about us, and it's like there is no us anymore. I'm aware of that. Why do you? I don't. Why? He gets on my nerves. Do you hate me for caring about her the way that I do? It was basically like he was like, "Do you hate me because I love her and I didn't love you?" Like, shut up. Why would you ask somebody that?
yeah.
And then she looks at him and she says, "We've been over this. Our relationship was over years ago." And he starts to say like, "Yeah, but," and she just cuts him off. And it's obvious that it's a conversation that not interested in having. She doesn't want to have this conversation with him, especially not right now. So once they do leave Diana's front door, she immediately gets up and runs out. She wakes up and she's like, he's out there somewhere. I just have to go and find him. And she gets up and she goes running out to the beach. And so then Brian and Liz come back around. They realize that Diana's gone and they go out searching for her and they find her out on the beach. And she explains that she's not sleepwalking. She's perfectly fine. She's awake. She's lucid. It is at this point that they probably should have left her alone. And Brian, however, decided to hang out and just linger. Ugh, he lingered so much. Have you ever been like at work and you're like in the break room or something like that, and it's like you're on your 15 or 20-minute break, whatever it is, right? And you really just want to like scroll on your phone, drink your little drink, be in those 15 minutes, and there's like a person who's not even really talking to you, but they're just like kind of standing there, and every once in a while they kind of like say something to you, and you're just like,
Yeah.
why are you lingering? That's how Brian was this week. He just lingered over her constantly, and she's clearly just trying to have a moment alone.
Yes.
So they find her. She explains she's not sleepwalking. Liz leaves, but Brian decides to stay, and he says, well, actually refuses to leave her alone. And then he tells her that he loves her. It's just like, is now the time? Is now the time? She's really going through something deeply emotional. She just went through
Yes.
this insane experience. All she can talk about, think about, all that occupies her mind is this other man. And you throw in this, you think that this is appropriate. He's the
Yeah.
worst.
He's the worst. I mean, she's at this point even doubting if he's dead, because she's like, I had a vision that I thought he might have died, but what if he's not dead? Maybe he is out there. And that is a true possibility, because you have amnesia. You can't always trust what comes into your head at this point. But
Yeah.
Brian is almost trying to beat it out of her, like, no,
That's
he's
exactly
dead.
what I wrote in my
He's
point.
dead.
That's exactly what I wrote in my notes this week, that he like he's beating the hope out of her. He's trying to beat the hope out of her, and I cannot stand it. I don't like this man. He's so selfish. He's a disgusting person. So
Did you
anyway,
catch the part? Well, I don't know if you were going to talk about it, but did you catch the part where he was talking about him being offered that job?
yes.
Okay,
Let's be clear.
get
We're
there.
definitely gonna talk about it. We're gonna talk
Good.
about the things. We're gonna do it, because yes, girl. Any chance I get to shit on Brian, I'm gonna take it. And that is, yeah. So
Mhm.
um she he continues to just tell her, basically he says, I know you have this memory of this in your mind, and if he is still out there, then hasn't he found you yet? You've been on this island for months. Why hasn't he found you? If you were my girlfriend and my love, I would never give up looking for you. I would search to the ends of the earth for you. And here's the thing, maybe this person is searching to the ends of the earth, and maybe they just haven't made it to this end of the earth.
Exactly. How about maybe taking her to the mainland? Because this is one of these offshoot islands. You know that there's a main Bermuda. Why didn't you take her to main Bermuda and say, hey, does anyone know who this woman is?
Yeah.
You did
So
not. You've been
he
keeping her hiding out because I think you know that maybe someone will recognize her and you don't want anyone to find her.
he's her isolated, which is classic abuser tactic. He's keeping her isolated. Yeah. He wants her on that island. He wants to keep her to himself. He's ugh, I can't stand him. Okay. So he just keeps telling her, like, you told me your lover was dead. Remember your memory? And then in the same breath, he'll say, you remember that your lover is dead, but also you think that you had like this encounter with him. You can't trust what you believe. Like, you can't trust your mind. That's what he keeps saying to her. Like, you can't trust your own mind because you're all mixed up. And if that is the case, then you can't believe anything she says. Right? Like, if that's the case, you can't believe that her lover is dead, because like you just pointed out, she's all mixed up in the brain. right? If we're gonna go down that road, if we're going down the route of like, in like, I don't want to say insanity, but like that she's not that she's clearly in the brain.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
he wants that man to be dead, so he wants his brother to be dead so bad.
I know. I don't even know if it's his brother. Though I think if he found out it was his brother, he would still feel the same way.
100%. 100%. Yeah. So, um, he just keeps telling her dead and that he's not gonna come looking for her. And then Sheridan's like, well, maybe he's not dead. Maybe he is looking for me and he just hasn't found me yet. She makes some great points. Sheridan is
Mhm.
making some salient points and she's so clear. She actually is so clear minded for once in this little storyline that I was happy. It made me happy to hear her just like making a little bit of sense. But Brian immediately starts making not so good points. And he tells her there's no hope that her lover's out there. He says, and then he's like, how can you trust your feelings when you recently told me that he was dead and now you're saying he's alive? What's the truth? And then he says, you're just clinging to false hope. And says to him, I know it's not false. I was with him. I was touching him. I was kissing him. We talked to one another. And then she says, and every time I try to give up on my love, like like you've been suggesting, every time I try to give up, something has happened. I get a vision of some kind, or I get a sign that feels to me like I shouldn't give up. Like there's somebody out there for me, like he's there waiting for me. And then a rose washes up on the beach. Another sign, yet another
Mhm.
sign. She
Another
says,
sign.
it's just like the rose my love gave me. But Brian just keeps trying to get her to give up on her love. And he's saying, oh, you remember his face, but you don't remember his name or his identity. Well, she doesn't remember her name. So the fact that she remembers his face is pretty damn big.
Yeah, exactly.
She doesn't remember her name or her identity. So what's the point that you're trying to make, Brian? I don't get what the
Exactly.
point he's trying to make. I
And you're not even trying to find out who she is either. I don't see you researching or calling people. You know that your brother is a cop, okay? You're not gonna at least like you love her this much, but not enough to want to contact your own mother to find out who she is.
Yeah. Even Sam worked really hard to try and help Grace find out who she was and what her past connections might be. Like trying to find
Yep.
her sister. Yeah. But Brian is no Sam. Antonio is no Sam. And as much as I give Sam shit, y'all know I give Sam shit. Half of it is joking, right? Cuz I mean, he is bad at his job. But he's not a bad guy.
No, he's not
You
that
know,
guy. His
he's
heart is
not a
always in the right place.
yeah, he's not a bad guy. Brian Antonio, I think he's a bad guy, right?
Selfish.
He's so
Selfish, but
selfish.
he's been selfish from the jump. You left your family behind. Okay, I forget what was the reason. I know it had something to do with the cranes, but you up and left your family.
And never
You're
called.
like you're like your father, who left for even worse reasons.
Mhm. Mhm. But when we get there, plenty to say about Martin Fitzgerald.
Hmm.
That jackass, like father like son, basically.
Thank you.
Really. So and all these men, all of the Lopez slash Lopez Fitzgerald slash Fitzgerald men just like get obsessed with the women that they're well, actually the children, because Teresa's super obsessed with Ethan, so it's not just the men.
So true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
love
all
is the
just,
only.
and even Pilar like has been holding on to Mark so tightly for all these years. So they I guess they get it honest. The kids get it honest because their parents are both like obsessive types of people.
Yeah, but I
Um,
mean, and later on we'll get there. But Pilar even mentions like maybe I should have let it go and remarried.
I liked that. I liked where we went with that. I feel for Pilar. I also give Pilar shit a lot, but I do like Pilar, and I don't think she's a bad person at all. At all. As far as the mothers on this show go, she's probably the best one. She's probably the most involved. You see her with her kids a lot more than you see Grace with hers, or Ivy with hers, or Eve with hers. You see Pilar with her
Yeah,
kids a little often. Um,
true. Yeah, I'm
so
trying to think, but I don't
yeah,
know.
and let me be clear, that is, it's not like she's getting for Mother of the Year anytime soon, right? Like
Yeah,
when I say of the mothers on this show, they're all so bad. She's just like the top, she's like the least worst mother on the show.
and
Yeah.
maybe because there's just so many of them that to like rear them is like impossible in
Yeah,
trying to
she
raise
just
them.
gave up. She had just, I mean, she just sent Paloma off to God knows where, right? Like, she just gave up
But she ended up being the most stable one of all of them.
because she wasn't in this crazy house with these people.
Hmm.
Okay, so Brian's trying to get her to give up on her love and on her hope, and she gets this rose, and then he says to her, "You know, you remember his face, but not his name, his identity. Your memory is conflicted. You think you were with him tonight." So Antonio O'Brien refuses to believe that Sheridan and Luis, Diana and her lover, were actually
Hmm.
together tonight, even though he was there for all of the weirdness. He saw her disappear.
Yeah,
He actually saw the man 2 times. He
yeah.
saw him
I mean,
twice.
face, but his sort of his shadow. Like
Yeah. He
he
saw him.
saw
He saw
the
the
whole
figure of the
Bermuda.
man.
Yeah, the whole Bermuda Triangle. He kind of gave into it and realized, like, oh, there's something weird going on.
So in the same way I feel about Hank on all of this, I feel about Brian on this too. It's like you were there, you saw it, so why are you being so incredibly skeptical about it? It doesn't make
Because he's
any
obsessed with
sense.
her.
What?
He's obsessed with her. That's really what it is.
Yeah, so he's super skeptical about the whole thing. Cuz she then brings up her past lives and the dreams she's been having about like their past lives together, and he's like super skeptical about that, and he's like super nasty about that. It's like, girl, you do not want to be with a man who won't validate you in anything, right? And that thing, and he basically treats you like an idiot anytime you tell him something interesting or weird that has happened to you. And he's just such an asshole. And he says, you know, if you say it out loud that you were with your dead lover, does that sound right to you? And she was like, I guess not. And he says, exactly. Then maybe it's just your mind playing tricks on you. And he successfully wears her down. He beats it and beats it and beats it into her until she finally relents and says, I suppose maybe my mind could be playing tricks on me. And he's like, that's
Yeah.
all I wanted to hear. Ugh, I don't like him. I don't like him at all. So he continues, but she wants, at this point, she's like sad because she was excited. I want to be clear. He has done nothing but make her sadder every time he talks to her because
Hmm.
she was happy. She was excited. She was hopeful. She was looking out at the ocean thinking, like, maybe my love is somewhere. Brian comes into the picture and he just starts beating her down, beating her down. By the time we get to this point in the show, in the episodes, she's sad. She's crying. She starts to unravel, right? Like she gets extremely emotional. She starts to unravel. She's like, but why do I have all these feelings if he's gone, if he's never coming back for me? Why do I feel like this? She's really upset. And it's obvious she wants to be left alone, but he just lingers there.
Hmm.
Um, and he then tells her, you know, Diana, you need to move on with your life. And let go. You got to let go of your love. You have to let go. And she says, I can't just move on. He's the love of my life. And again, I will say, if I was trying, if I was trying to be in a relationship with somebody, like if there was somebody I had a crush on or I liked,
Hmm.
and they said to me, I'm so deeply in love with just the mere memory of this other person. That's it, right? They're obviously not ready.
Exactly. I want to be a rebound guy.
Exactly. They're obviously not ready. She's yelling at you, I can't give up. He is the love of my life. What do you want with this woman? What could you possibly get out of this relationship when she's
Yeah.
constantly going to be thinking about somebody else? Maybe even when y'all are together, she'll be wishing that you were him. I couldn't live
Hmm.
like that. Who could live like that? But he wants her so badly. Like you said, he's obsessed. He's
He's
obsessed.
upset.
And so she says, why did you tell me to forget about my love and forget about the love that I had with him? And he responds with, it's because I love you. Oh, I cannot. He centers himself in every fucking conversation. He
Yes.
centers himself in every conversation. And this is a woman with amnesia who is going through something horrible, who is grappling with these enormous feelings. And then you're going to throw in well, it's because I love you. So,
And
yes, and what does that have to. Let me
I
tell you.
wonder if he's sort of putting himself as if he's Sam and he got his amnesia girl, so now he wants his own amnesia girl.
His own perfect amnesia girl. But here's the thing. David Hastings showed up for Grace, and he's not even real, but there's actually Luis out there, right? And the thing about Grace is Grace didn't remember having some kind of love in her life, right? She didn't have any memories at all to go off.
No.
Diana, aka Sheridan, has these intense. She doesn't have any other memories. The only memories she has are of Luis.
All related to Louise. Not even Louise of this lifetime. She's had memories of Louise on a Titanic.
Across lifetimes, she's having memories of this man. What chance do you have with this woman? Like, to have a normal relationship. So he's like, it's because I love you and I can't stand to see you live with this pain. Well, she wasn't in as much pain until you came in here and told her that he was dead and that and insisted that she should give up. She was fine. She was actually happy for once. He's like, I just can't stand to see you live with this. And then he explains how he witnessed all the strange events, saw her disappearing, saw her with that guy. You know, he witnessed it, but then he says, the man you love is not coming to you. He'll never be coming back. And holding on to him is keeping you from the happiness you deserve. And somehow he's the happiness she deserves. That's what he basically says to her.
I know.
You. I could love you. I could be with you. I could make you happy. But you have to let go of this other man.
And this is a woman that has shown no interest in him. It's not like she's like, oh, he's kind of cute, and oh, let's go out to dinner, and oh, let's go on a date. She's shown no interest. Like, whenever talking about her lover.
Yeah. She has shown him no romantic interest whatsoever. The most interest she has shown in him is like being grateful that he pulled her out of the ocean. And at one point, and it made me so mad, I don't even think I put it in my notes, but it was kind of important. At one point, she even apologizes to him. It made me so sick. She even apologizes to him, saying like, oh, after he tells her he loves her, like, oh, Brian, I'm so sorry because here I am about this other man, and I must seem so ungrateful that you pulled me out of the ocean. It's like pulling you out of the ocean was that's like just a normal, regular human thing to do. Save a dying person. You don't owe him anything.
Happens all the time. You don't see people just falling in love.
Yeah,
She's
you don't.
just not that into you.
Exactly. You don't owe him anything. You don't.
She was more excited about meeting number 7 guy in room number 7 than she was hanging with him. Like, she's like, oh, we gotta call him. We gotta go meet up. We gotta have lunch with the guy in room number 7. It was
room
right?
number 9. It was room number 9, but still. But yeah, she was. She was like, because she was excited about somebody other than Brian, because he's just up her ass all the time, and she would like to talk to somebody else, right?
Yeah.
And then he tells her, I owe Liz some money, and I was offered a job, and if I take it, I'll have to be gone for 6 months on a fishing boat, but I'll turn it down if you decide to let go of this man and put your love to rest.
This pissed me off so much. You owe that woman so much money, and you're gonna turn it down so you can continue to live rent free in her house.
Yeah. Another woman that you invited to live rent free in her place, right?
Yeah.
In her face, considering you know she has feelings for you. I cannot stand this man. He is an idiot. And also, there's just so many issues. There's just so many problems with this statement, right? With him telling her about the job and that he owes Liz money, but he'll stay for her. It's so manipulative because basically
Emotional blackmail.
Mm-hmm.
It's emotional blackmail.
Because basically what he's telling her is, I am, struggling with money and I do owe Liz some money, but,
At least he acknowledges it.
I'll put you first. I'll put you ahead of all of that as long as you let go of this love that you have for this man and agree to be with me. If you're ready to be with me, then I won't work. Boy, I don't want you. You don't have a job.
Exactly. Sheridan should have been like, no, no, no. Go. Please go. Go pay Liz back. And you know what? If you come back and I missed you, then maybe that's a sign that I like you and then we can get together. But
Yeah.
if you and I don't even think about you, it was never gonna happen anyway.
If it were me, I feel like I would have been like, well, you need to let your love go. Right? Like if he's like, I love you, Diana. Well, you need to let it go. Let
Yeah.
your love go. How does it
J-O-B.
feel?
You need a job work.
Go to work. You need to let your love go and go to work. So anyway, Antonio has successfully beat all the hope out of Sheridan, and he tells her that I'm telling you need to move on. That's basically where we kind of end it. We'll have a little like tag on at the end here, but we need to go to Harmony now, where Luis is talking about the events, the Bermuda Triangle events of the night as well, right? Hank is trying to get Luis to see his point of view, which is that Luis just thought that he saw Sheridan, that he just wanted to be with Sheridan so bad, that his mind is playing tricks on him. Everybody says, your mind's just playing tricks on you. Your mind, I mean, the mind is an incredible thing, but if your mind, that's beyond a trick, right? Like that's psychosis, right? If you are in a situation where you feel like you're being transported to other places, there's another person in the room with you, that's schizophrenia. And you need to go to the hospital because you are in the middle of an episode, right? That is not mind playing tricks on you. That is fucking clinical. It's pathology.
But he even said that he handcuffed her and would have clicked if she wasn't there. Like he's even trying to tell them like there's proof. Look, when I was watching these, and I love reading the comments on all of the different episodes, one comment stuck with me, and I'm gonna go with it because they're like, I am so bored of this Brian, Sheridan, Luis that I'm just not gonna take the position that Hank is in love with Luis and watch it from that perspective, and it's gonna be a whole new show for me. And I'm like, I'm on that train. I'm on that train.
Hannah, one of the patrons on the Discord, she said that on the Discord like recently. Like I was actually put it in my notes. I actually put it in my notes because I was watching these episodes when she commented that, and I was like, that is an excellent way to watch this. And when you watch it through that kind of lens, it definitely is far more entertaining because it does seem like Hank's just like obsessed with Luis.
A little bit. A little bit.
Because he just won't. He refuses to let him have any hope for Sheridan at all. Even though he was there, he saw it. He saw him with Sheridan. He saw him in the pool being disappearing into a different place. He said himself that he was holding on to him, and then it felt like he was there, and he wasn't, and then he would be back. So he experienced it himself, which is why Hank. Actually, Hank and Brian both this week, that really bothers me about both of them. The amount of skepticism they have in these events irritates me because they experienced it themselves. So
exactly,
but yeah,
he explain it.
He Sheridan coming back because he's in love with Luis, and I love it. And I think I said this. I think I might have said this on an episode it might have not come out yet, but that Hank and Luis together is a hot couple. Like this Hank we have now, I would watch
Thwarted Hank.
Watch them do a lot of dirty things. I would, and I would enjoy it.
Yeah. I was gonna say the actor's not that great. Like his acting is a little flat, but he is good to look at.
He is a beautiful man. He is a little flat. The affect is a little flat.
I remember wanting him and Gwen to get together because I'm like, they will look cute together. His acting still sucks, and she would probably act around him, but maybe that'll help improve his acting.
Yeah. Well, and he doesn't doesn't have that many people to talk to, too. He doesn't really act with anybody beyond like Luis and a little bit of Beth sometimes, right now.
And
We got him
he
with
is
a little bit of
pushing
Pilar.
Beth.
Huh?
He is pushing Beth hard.
Yeah, he is in Beth hard. So I'm gonna go ahead and preempt blame Hank for the pit situation. Cause he is pushing her so hard this
Yeah.
week. So let's actually, this is a good time to talk about what's going on with Beth. So at the book camp, Beth receives a package and it is from Sheridan. Oh Lord. Some
Oh,
that did you hear that?
oh,
Phil.
that was Uche pissed off that
It
you're
was
talking about Beth.
my painting fell. One of my paintings fell.
Oh,
That's I'll put it back up later.
okay.
Okay. Yeah, that was not Uche hearing me talking bad about Beth. Beth receives a package in Sheridan. So she calls Luis and Hank answers the phone and she tells him, I have a package. It's from Sheridan. I'll be right over because Hank and Luis are at the cottage, right? And so she goes over. Luis is really excited about this, whatever this is, because he's been saying to Hank, I've been getting all these signs. I've been getting all these visions and things of Sheridan. Like, I know she's out there. And when he hears about this package, he's like, I knew it. It's a clue. Like, she sent me something.
Because she's alive.
Because she's alive. Sheridan is alive. He says it over and over again. So Beth comes over with this box. He opens it up. And Beth says, yeah, Sheridan wanted you to have this if anything happened to her. And it turns out to be a complete diary and scrapbook of their entire relationship, which was really sweet. It's odd that she would have this like made and then have it set aside instead of just giving it to him. It's like he'll have it if something happens to you if you just give it to him.
Well, according to Beth, she had gone there to help put it together and it was still at the print. It just came back from the printer. So she might have still given it to him. It's just that it just came back.
Yeah, maybe.
Fresh off the press.
Yeah, maybe. That might be it. I'll give her a pass on it. And so Beth says that Sheridan had then Beth says like Sheridan had a feeling that she wouldn't be okay, and it seems that she came to me a few days before the two of you were supposed to get married and asked me to help her find a bookbinder. And so of course I helped her, and then so they look through the book. There's a picture of Titanic. Luis explains the connection between their relationship in Titanic and about previous lives, and then he tells them about the fortune teller's predictions. It's all recap. It is all recap, and it's important recap if you haven't seen the show, right? Like it's important recap if you didn't see those early episodes, which a lot of people didn't, right? So, and they haven't brought it up in a long time, so it was important. It is not important recap for us, right?
No.
So we.
No.
So they're going through the scrapbook, and Hank says to Luis, he says, see, something I'm noticing in this scrapbook is a lot of the memories are the same memories that you felt like you were experiencing tonight. The pool, the gazebo. And he says, I think that you just wanted so badly to relive those happy memories. Fine, whatever, Hank. We all know that's not the truth, but this is what the road Hank has decided to go down.
And the book came after the events that happened. So it's not like he saw the book and then started having those visions.
Right.
Way.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. Well, Hank's an idiot. He's not a thinker. Right? So Hank, they end up all going back to the book cafe. They're looking through this scrapbook. Hank gives Louise like a talk about Sheridan and saying like, what do you think Sheridan want? Like, do you really think she would want you moping around and not on with your life? And let me just remind everybody. So Brian just said that Sheridan's been on the island for months. I don't know how many months, but I'm imagining it was like summer-ish when they went, right? They just did Christmas. We're now in like February. I'm gonna say it's been like 6 or 7 months, right?
Yeah.
That's not long enough. If I die, I'm gonna tell you right now. If I die, my significant other needs to mourn me for a solid 2 years. I, I'm not saying you can't move on, but moving on within 6 months I would come back and haunt you so hard. Do you understand? You need to sad, not sad, but you need to be trying to get over me for about 2 years, and I think that's reasonable.
Hmm.
Um, some people might say it's excessive, but I think if you had a love like Sheridan and Luis's,
Yeah.
right, and y'all were supposed to be getting married, and she died in such a horrific way and such a dramatic time, and a lot of therapy to get over, and you don't ever get
Yeah.
over it. I think they talk about enough is like keeps using this language of like you need to get over it, you need to get past it. You don't ever grief like that doesn't ever go away. It just becomes more bearable.
Exactly. Because you never know what might trigger it, and you might be a ball of tears.
Yes. Oh yes. Grief like that never goes away. It just becomes more bearable. So he just doesn't know what he's talking about. He's so annoying. So he's just like, maybe you should think about what Sheridan will want. And then Hank starts talking about like the facts are that Sheridan died. And then Luis is like, Sheridan is alive. And they have the same old conversation, the same old back and forth, round and round. Then Hank finally does leave the book cafe. He tells Beth to kind of like keep an eye on him, and she's like, "Of course I
Mhm.
will." And um, then Hank goes to, for some reason, Hank was like, "Okay, I'm gonna leave and go to Pilar's house. Go to Luis's house without Luis."
Yeah. Why are you there?
He left Luis to go to Luis's house without him. But yeah, he goes there and he talks to Pilar, and he just kind of brings her up to speed on what's going on and what has happened. And Pilar starts to say that maybe she regrets having given him false hope, having told pray for a miracle. So when Luis does show back up and Hank leaves, they have a conversation where Pilar says, maybe I gave you the wrong advice. I'm sorry that I I think maybe you should try and move on with your life. Like trust me, I understand. And sometimes I wonder. She's like, I don't want to see you spend years of your life waiting for somebody to come back who's never gonna come back.
Yeah.
And she has her own realization in this moment, which was lovely, right? She was like, I've waited for your father all these years, and maybe I should have remarried. Maybe if I had remarried, you would have just gotten married to Beth, and you wouldn't be going through this right now. And then he says to her, but then I wouldn't have met Sheridan is the love of my life. Everything was worth it, right? So I get both sides of this conversation. I get both sides of the
I
argument.
wonder if he would have cheated with Sheridan.
No,
Do
I
you
don't.
think it would have been too noble?
Yeah, I think he would have been too noble. I don't think. And the thing is, Sheridan isn't like an Ivy or a Teresa or a Kay, where she would be scheming to try to get with him anyway, right? And I think
True.
the only way Luis would cheat on Beth with Sheridan is if Sheridan was like actively trying to get at him, but never do that.
No,
And
Sheridan's not like that
now,
at all.
now, do I think that Luis would break up with Beth for Sheridan? Yes, I I do. I do believe that Luis would. I think we go back and forth on. I think he would. I think he would leave her for Sheridan
Yeah.
because they have
Me
like this
too.
amazing love, right?
Yeah.
Um, at least that's what the show wants us to believe. So at this point, Luis kind of what Pilar tells him is like, you need to try and connect to Sheridan. Y'all shared a love that was so great that go and listen for her, I guess, and see what she tells you. So he goes outside and he goes talks to the sky, and it is at this point that Sheridan is doing the same thing on the island. So we get this like side by side split screen of these two
Mhm.
people talking to the stars, basically saying the exact same thing, right? Like, what
Yeah.
should I do? Are you trying to get me to move on? Is that what this is about? Like, What should I do? And should I give up my love, or is there a chance that you will come back to me? Beth
Hmm.
comes over at this point, and they have a little conversation about their past, which we know what's going on with them. And
Hmm.
then she tells him, Beth gives him some good advice. Beth gives him a nice, she says something that I was like, that's actually such a good way to phrase this. Because everybody else keeps telling him, like, Sheridan wouldn't want this, Sheridan wouldn't want this. You need to move on. You need to move on. What Beth says to him, I really liked. She says, you know, maybe instead of asking yourself what you should do, ask yourself what you want Sheridan to do if she were in your position. I loved it.
Yes.
Loved it. Good job, Beth. I hope you're listening,
Yes.
Uche and Fantasia and Cam.
Yes.
Good job,
Hmm.
Beth. And so he considers this hypothetical, and he begins the process of like letting Sheridan go. And on the island, she can hear him letting her go, and they let her go. Like
Yeah.
these episodes, it was bittersweet because it needed to happen for us to kind of move these plots any further, right?
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
for Luis to move on with Beth and for Sheridan to move on with Antonio.
Brian.
But yeah, Brian, Antonio, whatever. The reveal has been revealed. They're interchangeable at this point. But so I keep saying both names. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, it was bittersweet. It is. We do need to progress this plot. I'm sick of it. If you're not going to get them back together, then let's move on from this.
These close calls are just so annoying.
Yeah. And then later, Pilar is in her room and she finds that necklace from Antonio.
That's right.
Um, yeah. So we'll see what comes of that.
He was
Nothing probably.
creeping up in her room, staring at her while she was sleeping like a
Yeah.
creeper.
And she's like, "My son was here, Antonio. He would have brought this to me. Yes, it was Antonio. My son was here." So
Even though technically that was actually Sheridan. She bought that for you.
yes, it was Sheridan bought it, and he ended up leaving it
Because
there.
he still had his. Because
Mhm.
the second she found it, they flashed to him wearing his.
Mhm. Yep. So that's it. You have anything else to add?
No, that was it.
That's it. We
Yeah.
we did it. Yay. I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with this little soundboard. Before I go, I'm gonna play all the rest of the. I think I played two, but the other ones that Eric sent to me, we got the Shawise music, we had the and Timmy music, and then there's this Rebecca music. And then I also this. I love this. It's a clip of Eve asking if somebody wants a sedative.
Do you want a sedative or something to quiet your nerves?
Which I just love. I just love. I just love. So thank you, Eric. You have brought so much light and sunshine into my life with these. So
No, the
with that,
podcast is about to take a turn. With sound
listen.
clips.
So with that, Maria, tell everybody where they can find you.
You can find me on the Discord.
Sure can. Join the Patreon.
Yes,
You
you
can find
can.
me on the Discord. And of course, you can find me on social media. Check the link in the description, and you can find me on Instagram, TikTok. I'm most active on TikTok and Instagram. I'm not as active on X, Twitter anymore. I just hate that site so much. And I'm a little active on Facebook, but Facebook's kind of tough to navigate those pages. So come join the Discord and join the Patreon so you can join and get in on all the conversations. And
Mhm.
that's it for the week. Thank you,
That's
Maria,
it.
for being here. It was
No
lovely.
problem.
So
It
happy to
was.
see
It's
you.
always a
Can't
lot
wait
of
to see you
fun.
again.
Yeah, I
Uh,
know.
All right. And with that, you are my passion for life.